Will stand, please. May the Lord give this council the wisdom, discernment, and courage to serve the community. Grant also that we may act compassionately in the integrity in the best interest of this shire. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. I would like to show respect and acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land and elders past, present, and future on which this meeting takes place. Thank you, councillors. You all may be seated. Okay, welcome to those in the gallery and councillors to our May council meeting. Please be reminded that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube. Could all councillors please ensure their use of microphones are on when speaking. Application for attending meetings by video link.
We have one application from one of the speakers, but none from any other councillors.
You apologies. Application for leave of absence by councillors.
Nil received, Mr. Mayor.
Public participation. Quite a few, Mr. GM. We've got SCR 05.1, Environmental Community Services Committee on ECSC 05.1 DA 168/2023 Tourist and Visitors Accommodation. We've got Heidi Woods representing Ravens Development for the recommendation via video link. We've got Ron Campbell representing himself against the recommendation. Stephen Gowan representing Marymore District Progress Association against the recommendation. Anne-Marie Peebles representing Hamel Transport against the recommendation. On G05.1, the Community Strategic Plan 2035, Gerald Howard representing himself against the recommendation. G05.2, Gummun Place update, Stephen Gowland representing Marymore District Progress Association against the recommendation. Robert Smith representing himself against the recommendation. D.B. Peebles representing the community for Gummun Place. Hasn't stated whether against or for. NM05.1, proposed DA 168/2023, an application for tourist and visitor accommodation units at 108 Bedding Street, Marymore. Roger Saunders representing Elders Marymore against the recommendation. Danielle Cronin representing Marymore Supermarkets Pty Ltd, IGA Marymore plus Liquor against the recommendation. The first four, we'll go through the list. We'll call on Heidi Woods representing Ravens Development, which is on video link. Welcome, Heidi. You have 5 minutes to put your case, and after 4 minutes, I'll give you some warning. So you have the floor.
All right, thanks for that. So I work for Ravens Developments and the owner.
Heidi, not very loud. We have a job to hear you.
Sorry, you can't hear me.
Just hang on 2 seconds, please.
You're right.
Try that.
Can you hear me now?
No, that's worse. We can't hear you at all. You're not on mute.
No, it's not.
No, not on mute.
That volume on that is.
Can we turn the volume up?
Can you hear me yet? I can't hear anything now.
No, Heidi, we can't hear you. Would you mind if we put you on hold for a minute? We'll go through some of the others and get you on in a minute when we can try and sort this problem out.
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go on. We'll call on Ron Campbell representing himself against the recommendation. Ron, to the, I think you know the rules, Ron.
Hello, can you hear me now? I don't think so. It's not on the Was going through the microphone.
We can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, that's really good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and also councillors for allowing me to stand down a little bit. How's that? They both good? One. One of you. One. Okay, thank you, councillors, for allowing us to put forward some ideas and concerns that we have. I speak against the DA application approval as it now stands. One could say 2023 for the tourist and information and visitor accommodation, 9 units, 108 Bedding Street, Marywalk, the rear of a lot 8. I am not going to make this very clear. It's only the encroachment of 3.5 metres, 55 metres of that roadway that I'm speaking against. I believe that Marywalk needs accommodation as much as we can get. I believe all public accommodation is proper safe parking available to enter and exit the premises. I do not believe this has been properly provided. But we need more room, not less room. The narrowing of the laneway that is proposed will further restrict this to be achieved, and with more vehicles parking on the roadway and in and out of the facilities at IGA, where shoppers frequently enter and exit the car park that can only cause coming from that laneway. I don't believe this can be achieved by narrowing it by 3.55 metres. The gazetting of this section of the laneway was agreed to by the Marywalk Shire Council and the Upper Hunter Shire Council. Copies of the signed original documents to hand by the general managers, which are freely available on the council, not the council website, but a particular facility that they have. This was made possible for the council to proceed as the land was donated by G. Moore and K&A Richards. All the required contributions have been paid to council to proceed. I asked the question, why wasn't it proceeded to Gazette? Council file number OUT 045806 PGSB. Now they're available, they're public documents. And it was agreed by, and I might add that it was the Upper Hunter Shire Council that agreed on to the to this gazetting taking place. I wonder why it wasn't followed through. By doing this, the taking 3.55 metres onto the laneway, restricting parking and access for business houses in Marywalk, it can work. But it is not what should happen in Marywalk. We need more area there and more space for the expansion. Most of the trucks today, and I travel the highway quite a bit with our semi, they're getting bigger. And a lot of these are just big Pantex, etc., that need to come in, and they're delivering goods, especially to the food sector. I believe that it's a travesty of justice to take away the 3.55 metres that is proposed. I'm just wondering why the owner of that land does not see that as far as the necessity for us to have that area in Marywalk. Now the laneway is not named. That's up to council to name that. Then I know that application has been made, not by us, we don't have a BO yet anyway. That can only be done by council. If the naming of the laneway needs to take place so that any permit for larger vehicles can deliver goods to the business. I just believe that council has been negligent, and I find it very hard to stand up here being a former councillor and turning around saying I believe that council has been negligent in not putting not gazetting those that roadway. So thank you for that. Thank you, Councillor Campbell, Ron Campbell. Just before we move on, I see some signs in the gallery, unfortunately, it's not my rule, there's not to be any placards or signage read in the issue on the agenda. Quite welcome outside, but it's not in the chamber. Thank you. Councillors, any questions to Ron Campbell? You got off it rightly, Ron. Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillors.
Okay, we'll just go back to Heidi Woods and see whether we've got the volume sorted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
No, no good. Okay, while they're sorting it out again, we'll move on. Just a warning for those in the gallery as well, there is no recording of this meeting. No personal recording of this meeting. It's all on YouTube. We're going to call on Stephen Gowan, representing Maryville District Progress Association, against the recommendation. Steve? Steve, 4 minutes and you'll hear that.
Thank you, Morris. Before it starts, is this to do with the subdivision in Motel, or is this?
This is the Environmental Community Services on the Tourist and Information for the DA.
Okay, thank you. I did not like that. Councillors would have all received correspondence from the Progress Association regarding this development. Microphone not working? Just lift it up a bit. Okay. Essentially, to allow the development to go ahead is effectively going to block off this unknown laneway by 3.5 metres. And it's going to impact on the economic and social viability of this area, but also the general public. We did a trial to see whether one of the local businesses could access through the laneway with their vehicle, being double 26 metres in length, and it was unable to negotiate through that laneway without encroaching on the area that's intended to be used by the proponent for this development. I want to refer to the statement of environmental effects submitted by the proponent that recognises that I just lost my slide. The lane continues through subject site provided further access to 104 Beacon Street. Access. It's noted that due to the long-standing use over the subject site, there may be entitlement to a possession of title claim. This information was provided to the proponent by the person that prepared their statement of environmental effects. So the proponent would be well and truly aware that there was a potential issue with this laneway. We've also found that with research that Council back in 2004 and 2005 undertook some of the process for dedicating this road to laneway, unknown laneway, as roadway. And they've got money paid from from the stakeholders involved, and agreed to allocate $5,000 to registering this unknown laneway as a roadway right through there. So it behoves now the council to continue with that development, to change the boundaries, to not allow this proponent to move off that laneway. All we're asking is that council not approve this development at this stage, so that it doesn't reduce options for securing this as a roadway in the future. If you look at the legal title for the property, the existing laneway doesn't actually join up with the laneway, the rear of a couple of blocks to the north of the proponent's area. So even if the the rights of carriage way were to be retained, they still have to provide access through to the IGA or elders or the annual defence board. So, councillors, I think the obligation is on council to not approve this development until you know all the advantages and also we'll leave that to you and make a decision.
Steve, councillors, Steve, just stay there, please. Any questions, Steve? We've got one Steve, I know said about 2,000 more than council, not taxing lands. Board, as you know, the business you're in, no complaint here for something that happened in 2004.
Absolutely, Lawrence, and certainly we're not trying to lay the blame on any councillors as president owner or even the staff. But at the time, the people who were the upper Hostel council made these obligations up to the council, and the council's cause to fulfil the requirements that promises were made by the council at that time.
Any other questions? Yes, I have one more. So if this didn't go ahead, the applicant have the right to close that one?
The applicant have the right to close on the some previous owners actually gave the approval for that laneway to be closed off, and that's why council at the time installed drainage and moved the fence from its location to its current location. So a lot of the work was done by council. The only part that wasn't done was the actual registration of the relocation.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Last point, that's confusing. Did the previous owner then enter a separate agreement over title?
There's been a few different owners prior to the current owner. The owner prior to this, the chap by the name of Marcy, was advised by a solicitor that did the conveyancing for buying that property, that there was a process in place to turn the northern part of that particular lot into a laneway. So he was advised by that, and that was a local solicitor. I've got a copy of the letter that can be provided. Prior to that, the owner was the owner of Ridley Park, and they gave their approval in writing and verbally, and even contributed financially to the works carried out there. Yeah, so that's 2 consecutive owners gave their approval.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Oh, hang on, Steve.
If the development application as filed were not approved, and I think this question that Mayor Collison was probably getting at, but might come across quite clearly, so I'll ask it. If this development application is not approved, and the owner of lot 108, or sorry, 108 Benedict Street, Maryborough, then makes a unilateral decision to close that lot to vehicular access, that achieves the same difficulty in that the owner that lot can deny access to vehicles travelling on that laneway at this stage anyway, can they not?
Yes, I guess they could fence off their boundary across that laneway there, and that would certainly block traffic through there. However, when they bought the property, it would have been quite obvious to them that that particular part of the lot was being used as a laneway. So if they decided to build a development, a motel out across the roadway, then I don't think they're very considerate of the local population, the surrounding business and the general public.
Would it then be some sort of reasonable compromise if there was perhaps an agreement that vehicles, if the development was approved, vehicles continue to access the laneways they presently access through that project?
If the development goes ahead in its current state, the 3.5 metre encroachment on the laneway restricts movement of heavy vehicles essential to those adjacent businesses.
those heavy vehicles include semi-trailers or V-doubles or both?
It includes semi-trailers and V-doubles.
And if it was a situation that V-doubles were not permitted to access that laneway without a permit, that would then make that not an issue, wouldn't it?
What do you mean by accessing without permit?
Right, so V-doubles aren't legally allowed to access that laneway without there being a permit issue.
Right, I spoke to Hamilton Transport about that. They did apply to get a V-double permit for an access through there. Because the laneway was unnamed and because it wasn't a road all the way through there, that application was denied. So once again, it comes back to council for not naming that laneway and also for not going through in boundary readjustment to turn that particular northern part of this lot into an agreed roadway.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thanks for coming tonight, Steve. My question would be that council probably couldn't name that because it's private property, so it's not actually legally not permitted, is that correct? To name a lane that they don't own, so this is on private property. So this is my quandary here because this is development, this lane has been, people have been driving on private property and no owner has not allowed that. This, we've gone to it back and forth and the people who are proposing this CA have actually made allowances so that that can still be used, which they don't actually have to do. So they've actually made allowances for vehicles to go through here, so they actually are being considered. So I was just wondering, when you're saying that the DA didn't go through because council didn't do this and that, it's actually private land. So would that make a difference? Would that be probably why that there was no DA there?
No, I'm sorry, you're wrong there, Alison. The roadway that goes from the spot that's under consideration through to Bow Street is a dedicated roadway in council's control. So that could well have been named. But the council chose not to name that.
It's on, they drive on private property.
That's been surrendered. That's up until, from Bow Street up to the lot that's being considered now is a dedicated roadway under council control. So that could be named.
My question is, if that's the case, they could, by tomorrow, they could just block that off then, because that's what we've just agreed on. So there is actually control by the owner of that land to control who uses that laneway.
Yeah, certainly the current owner could block that off. That wouldn't go down very well with the locals.
That's not the question. The question is, if you can do that. So the question here is, could they or could they not stop vehicles as of tomorrow going shooting?
Well, I guess it's a legal question. The fact that the road's been used as a laneway for something like 35 years, it gives some reason for that laneway to stay open. I don't know the terminology, perhaps George can fill us in on that, but if a parcel of land has been used as a roadway for an extended period of time, then it is considered to remain as a roadway.
Thank you. No further questions? Thanks, Steve.
Sure.
Just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, there is no recording of this meeting on telephones inside the chamber. Not my rule, that's it. Okay, we'll just try online again. Heidi? Yes.
Can we hear me now?
No.
Is that any better?
Speak again?
No. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Okay, you have the floor.
Thanks for having me. So yes, I work for the owner of the development up there. She is a lady who has grown up in Merriwa, her life with her going to her grandparents' farm on weekends and school holidays. She loves the area, and yet a lot of things that I have to say have been said, but she knows the area, she knows accommodation for tourists and visitors is needed, and she really wants to support the community and bring people to town, obviously, which benefits everybody. We've had the DA in for a couple of years working with council to get everything approved. It doesn't seem like people are worried about the actual accommodation itself. That seems, everybody seems happy, but it's this access, which is her private property and which she could lock off, which she doesn't want to, has never said she would, and she has wanted to work. Nobody has come to her from any of the businesses. We've had nothing directly to us, and we have made that allowance of 6 metres, and we have provided to council as well the trucks, a 19-metre semi-trailer on auto turn, and also had one for a B double, but we didn't think that would be allowed on such a lane, the laneway that's being used. The lane is her private property. She does want to work with the locals. There's nothing that she has said. She could put restrictions, she could do things on that laneway. That's not what her idea is. It's not what the aim is. She wants to have visitor accommodation and work with them, but she also needs to have a certain amount of accommodation there to make it a feasible project for her as well. So there is also a 10-metre easement on those rear properties, that if they're saying that's not enough land there is an easement already on the rear properties that has been shown on a plan. That would give extra turning space for IGA. And I guess the other thing is, when these businesses also had their approvals, it wasn't based on using somebody else's private property for access. So they've had a benefit for how many years. It doesn't make it a legal road though. So our point is that it is a development needed for the area. She does love the area. We are trying to work with giving an access and giving the availability for all the surrounding neighbours who have been using that section to continue using it. But 6 metres is a significant road in the city. It could be a very obviously close two-way road, but they need to be working as well with their properties and what they need to do to achieve it as well. It's not like we're trying to cut them off. We're not trying to limit their access. We are trying to work with them. So that's pretty much.
Okay, just making sure we're getting that feedback. I think we're right. Councillor, any questions? Councillor McGill.
Yes, what would be the impact on your project if you drop that 9th unit off?
So I'm having trouble hearing that.
Just wondering, if you drop the 9th, unit off, what would be the impact on the project? That would be removing the unit that's actually sitting on the road.
Yeah, to remove a unit, it makes the project unfeasible. We've already had to reduce it to get the car spaces and enough room in there to have the turning circles for the guests or the visitor car park areas. So it has been reduced to make it a feasible project for her. It has been reduced in the number of units to make access available for the shop at the front and also for the accommodation.
Thank you. Any other council question? I just had one. Heidi, you can still hear me?
Yes.
I said the plans have been changed this week to cut that corner heading up
Yes.
the runway right. Cut
Yes,
we put
you
agree to that?
Yes, yes. Display at the corner for the truck turning, yes.
Thank you. No further questions, thank you. Okay, we'll move down to Anne-Marie Peebles representing Hamel Transport against the recommendation. Saying you've got 5 minutes for your notification. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. This is the first time I've ever spoken to council, but his name has been well and truly before. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here. I wish to speak and ask council not to approve the DA 168-2023 for a motel at 108 Bennington Street, Merriwell, before reviewing documentation regarding the unnamed laneway to a public road, which was first investigated in 2014, for which businesses and landowners made financial contributions. Additionally, under section 4.5 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act, a council must consider a proposal's social and economic impacts. From a review of the council's report to the Environmental Community Services Committee, it does not appear that this assessment has been undertaken. The development through its encroachment into the laneway at the rear will adversely impact access to a number of businesses that have been long established in Merriwell. Our own business has been established for over 20 years. This will not only impact on these businesses, but will then have flow-on impact to our other businesses and the community. If deliveries are unable to be made to the IGA, the only supermarket in town will close, thereby creating a community that does not have basic access to goods and services. The social and economic impacts can be catastrophic to the town. Also, it will have a heavy impact on the deliveries to elders and impact docking at our depot on our property, which is used to complete maintenance. The laneway is approximately 10 metres wide for its entirety. Enabling the reduction to 6 metres at this one point will create safety issues for not only trucks of various lengths, but also vehicles accessing the site. The landowners who were to benefit from the extension of the laneway paid money in good faith to the council for this laneway, and it is appalling that the council has not followed through and completed the work paid for and approved. I have spoken to landowners and businesses, most of whom are present tonight, as well as Paul and Vivi Frampton, who are unable to be here tonight, but who wanted to make you know that they agree with what I'm saying. The adjoining landowners should not be held to ransom for council not undertaking its duty and duty of care for the ratepayers. Why wasn't it reviewed by council and why hasn't it been followed through? In relation to the notification of the development application, the report suggests it was undertaken in accordance with council policy. However, nowhere has it been confirmed which landowners were actually notified. We own land diagonally adjoining the rear of the site and therefore adjacent, and were not notified of the proposal. In addition, following the amendment of plans, it would have been appropriate to be re-notified of the proposal, and this didn't occur either. The comments made by staff previously at the previous meeting were disappointing and included impractical suggestions and showed no regard for the financial viability and health and safety of the community. Also, the lack of reference to the email documentation from Steve Gallen, which showed the council's commitment to making this laneway a public road and the collection of financial contribution by landowners and businesses. Based on these issues, I wish to oppose the recommendation. It is recommended that the application be amended to increase the setback from the rear boundary to 10 metres to enable access. It is also recommended that council make good on its actions, formalise and name the laneway as promised and paid for by residents and business owners in 2004. Thank you.
Thank you. Just stay there. If there's any questions, councillors? Councillor McGill.
As I understand, there was some $19,000 collected, of which 5,000 council set aside to do the legal works. It'd be fair to say that the rest of the money was spent on drainage, roadworks, and improving Campbell Lane. Or sorry, the lane. Would that be a fair summation that the money that was given by the stakeholders was actually expended?
I have no idea where the money went to.
Right. I can tell you that's where it went.
Okay.
You, any further questions? I have one. So you own the B-double shed on the left as you drive up without doing the week and have a look. So to get your B-doubles backed into that shed, do you come up and turn down the LGA laneway?
The IGA, yes.
IGA,
Yes,
which
yes.
is owned by IGA.
Keith and Wendy, yes, and we have an agreement with Keith and Wendy because the IGA trucks pull into our property as well when they come in to deliver.
That's a mutual agreement.
Absolutely.
That could turn, but anyway, won't get into that. So do they all drive up or do they back up? They all drive up and swing into your driveway and then back into.
Mhm.
Thank you. Well, hang on, Councillor Stoltz.
Thanks, Ambulance, for coming tonight. I've got a query in regards to health and safety of people wandering around rear laneway, if they're in and out of Elders or they're in and out of IGA. Has there been any situations that your business has been affected trying to get into its depot with people wandering around the back that might be health and safety concern?
So Hamish, my husband, he is very mindful of the time that he comes in and out of that laneway, and he's very much mindful of the IGA trucks when they come in as well. He's purely used as a depot. He's away, that's why he's not here tonight. He's mostly away. He would only be using that laneway once, maximum twice a week to bring the truck in, to park it, to do maintenance, and then return. And he's very aware that he brings the truck in at before the IGA is open and after business hours. So he's never there when there's a lot of something that we take into consideration, because we are concerned and aware of other people who live in America.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we move down to G05.1, Community Strategic Plan 2035. Gerald Howard, representing himself against the recommendation. You're aware that we're all the same, 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. In terms of council's draft community strategic plan, it's my view that it is important for council to commit to concrete actions in the strategic objectives of a connected community within the plan, and that section of the plan covers the delivery of community services. As outlined in the community strategic plan, it is the primary guiding document informing all other subordinate plans, and therefore I believe that the wording used in that plan is important. So in my view, the wording used under that section, connected community, lacks intent. Overall, the objectives don't convey that council is going to do anything about the issues in that section. The objectives outlined in the section, I would argue, are quite weak in their language, almost non-engaged. For example, the word advocate is used a number of times. Whilst advocacy can be important, it doesn't convey a sense of determination to deliver specific outcomes. Other words used include promote, encourage, acknowledge, etc. Again, these words make it hard to measure specific outcomes. In contrast, other sections like quality infrastructure use words such as deliver, provide, improve, and to my mind, they're stronger words that convey a commitment from the council to undertake certain tasks. In protected environment, there's words used such as ensure, safeguard, provide. Under thriving economy, we have words like grow, keep, helping, etc. And under responsible governance, we have words such as improve, develop, ensure, provide, build. Now, to me, all those words suggest an intent to do something. And that's in contrast, I would argue, with the sections relating to community services. So it's important that council commits to concrete actions which cover the delivery of community services. The lack of intent in the community strategic plan then leads to an underfunding of what I would call people programs. That is, programs that develop and strengthen social cohesion, inclusion, and resilience. As an example, the recurrent budget for social protections year after year seems invariably very small. This covers community development initiatives such as health and wellbeing activities, disability action, mental health, domestic violence prevention, and other areas such as early childhood and seniors. I'm not at all saying that the community strategic plan doesn't have its strengths and merit. Councillors have identified the issues presented by an ageing population in the Shire. We need, therefore, to be mindful of how much funding comparatively goes to things like footpaths and access to shops. Councillors also identified the importance of preserving heritage and the need for affordable housing. Perhaps more could be done than simply encouraging affordable housing. In terms of preserving heritage, perhaps there could be a statement of committing to upgrading the built environment in the Shire's main streets. In terms of preserving heritage of our built environment, I would say, people often say that, and I'm speaking here about Murrumbidgee because that's where I live. Murrumbidgee is a beautiful place, and it is. It's surrounded by beautiful nature, but the built environment is not so beautiful. It has rundown and neglected shops and buildings, sometimes the main street. Unfortunately resembles the town in an old American Western movie. And this is not fair to people of the town and the various businesses.
That's the one, sorry.
It's fine.
Unless I could ask councillors to speak more, but it's Councillor McGill.
Indulge you for another minute.
Minute. Seconder, Councillor Williamson, all in favour? Against? Carried.
So in terms of that particular issue of in protecting environmental heritage, I would strongly encourage council to convene a high-level meeting with the owners of shop fronts in the main street in order to discuss how everybody can work together to improve the look and feel of the main street. In terms of advocacy, which I mentioned earlier, one thing council could do is to advocate for nurse practitioners to be employed at Murrumbidgee Hospital. These are highly trained nurse practitioners. We don't have a doctor at the hospital, and they can do extra things instead of people, having to come down to Scone to get a few stitches put in their leg or whatever. So, look, thank you for listening to me, and hope you can take these issues into consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Any questions, councillors? Councillor McGill.
In many ways, you've hit the nail on the head. You're looking at the language of the strategic plan. I would say one of your points here that we should be doing more, we should be delivering aged care and disability services. That's not in council's brief. That's why the word advocacy is used. Wherever the word advocacy is used, it's usually because it's not in our brief or we don't have budget for it.
Okay, well, I respectfully disagree with that. Council's brief up to probably over 30 years ago was rates, roads and rubbish. That changed under law, but council now has to consider and provide for the social, the environmental, the economic well-being of the whole community. Councils throughout New South Wales are very involved in children's services, aged care services, and the like. And it's simply, I have to disagree. It's simply not the case.
Mr. Howard, I have to pull you up there, sorry. Any more questions? All good? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move down to G05.2, the Gummun Place update. Stephen Gower, representing the Merriwell District Progress Association, against the recommendation. Stephen, you should become councillor.
I wouldn't be standing up here, would I, Morris? Councillors, I'd like to address you and ask you to not vote tonight to close Gummun Place. I come to plead to you, and you can see in the gallery today, a lot of people have come from Merriwell in a bus, in their own vehicles, in order to support the stance that we take on this particular motion. The community that elected all of you councillors are relying on you to do the right thing by them and to keep Gummun Place open. But we agree that the costs of running Gummun Place have increased over time. 2 years ago, it cost $137,000 per annum to run the place for that year. The next year it was $563,000, and by March this year it's up to $835,000. Why is it costing so much more? But still, it's $800,000 is still only 1% of council's expenditure for this coming financial year, the $88.6 million, 1%. If you look at some of the cost of services that are published in the Depop for this coming year, the public libraries are costing $2.1 million, swimming pools $700,000, emergency services $1.1 million, youth services $300,000, parks and gardens $960,000, sporting grounds and venues $1.1 million. Then we move down to business operations, and suddenly Gummun Place is down as a business operation, not as a service. Gummun Place last year cost $681,000 according to council's figures. But if you also look at some of the business operations that council has undertaken, Hunter Warbirds lost $308,000. The sale yards lost $633,000. White Park lost $110,000. The aerodrome lost $241,000. And real estate, I'm not quite sure what that is, $389,000. So although council, as a level of government, has a responsibility under its community service obligation to provide services not offered by the private organisation, we're asking council to keep operating Gummun Place at these levels of we're not asking council to keep operating Gummun Place at these levels of expenditure. We want to be reasonable about that. Council wants out, we're quite happy to let council go out. But instead of just saying keep it going as it is, we'd like to offer a solution. Council held an expression of interest, but it seems there was no interest in taking on Gummun Place because the place is run down and it's losing money. Very hard to attract somebody to take on that facility in that case. We'd like council to find the $2 million that is already suggested it's going to cost to bring Gummun Place up to a satisfactory standard. Essential works for looking after aged care, either by grant, which I know council's been applying for, or by borrowing the money. If it's good enough to borrow money for some of the other business ventures, then it's certainly good enough to borrow money for a service as essential as Gummun Place. We'd also like council to review the expenditure model to reduce costs by reducing the number of agency staff being employed. At the moment, there are 7 agency staff at Gummun Place, costing $270,000 per year. That adds up to $1.9 million a year for 7 agency staff. Secondly, invite local nurses and aged care workers to rejoin Gummun Place while offering them above award wages and offering them permanent employment. At the moment, these young ladies and others are working in Gummun Place for $30 an hour against agency staff who are getting $85 an hour. And it's the local ladies who have to show the agency staff what to do. Yeah. The council has expressed difficulty in getting people to work in Gummun Place. There's an organisation called the Welcome Experience who can bring people to Marywall. Council needs to regularly invoice residents to maintain a cash flow and also transfer the interest earned from residential accommodation deposits to Gummun Place. Also cease charging exorbitant administration fees to Gummun Place, $200,000 a year. That's $4,676 a week. I can't see how that adds up. Also review the general expenses and save at $350,000. We'd like council to just allow time to get Gummun Place back to a satisfactory standard and reduce the expenditure, and then again seek interested parties to assume the operation of Gummun Place. In the meantime, the Marywall community will explore opportunities and ways in which we become accredited aged care providers to take over the running of Gummun Place. Rebuttal already admits that there's insufficient time for the 1st of July to do this. So councillors, in wrapping up, please don't vote to close Gummun Place. We rely on you as your constituents to do the right thing by the people of Marywall.
Steve, councillors, any questions? You got off lightly, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. How long would it take you to be accredited so you could take over the facility?
So that depends on us initially forming either a cooperative or a trusteeship or something similar company. We haven't begun the process yet. I think Donald mentioned that the local community would not have time to get accredited by the 1st of July. We accept that. He also said that the local community didn't put in an expression of interest when the council engaged a consultant to do expressions of interest. But part of the reason for that is it was called all kept secret squirrel. The consultant did not engage with the local community.
So my question is, how long? So if you're really honest about this and you're really dedicated to this, the question is, because this would impact, I think, the decision made this evening. So what would the guarantee be that you would be putting in an expression of interest that would be something that we could substantially consider? So what's your time frame?
I think the time frame depends on how long it's going to take to bring the facility back up to a satisfactory standard. Possibly a couple of years, maybe 3 years, I don't really know. But certainly within that time, the community could get together and get accredited if we can set up the appropriate organisation, as I said before. But the other alternative is to, once the Gummun Place is brought up to a satisfactory standard, and that it can be shown that it's not actually losing quite so much money as it is at the moment, another aged care provider might quite well be prepared to take on that facility.
I think also I know the costs are skyrocketing, but it's also because there was a Royal Commission into aged care facilities, which has severely increased the need for trained staff. So it's not just a simple case of the way it's been run, but it's also because just some background knowledge for people. It's other things like early childhood centres, because of Royal Commissions and tighter restrictions on governance. That's the ratio for trained for staff to patients or to those living residents there is very different. So it's not a simple case of this is how much more it costs because of A, B, and C. There are actual ramifications for this, and because it's a small facility, it hits us harder. So I think I know that it seems very black and white, but there is a lot of complicated story behind all of this, and I just wanted to kind of clarify that.
Thank you, Alison. I think part of the reason is there are registered nurses in Merriwar who were working at Gummun Place, and they've resigned because of the toxic work environment down there, which comes back to management. Also the fact that they were only getting minimum hours, they're getting paid lower wages than the staff that they were working with.
Okay, I think we've just councillors' questions only. No questions? Thanks, Steve. Okay, Robert Smith representing himself against the recommendation, saying you get 4 minutes, sorry. 5 minutes.
Councillors, as Merriwar's pharmacist, I'm not here with speculation. I'm here with what I witness every day. Older residents delaying care, isolated patients struggling at home, families exhausted trying to bridge the gaps left by a crumbling system. Let's be clear. Gummun Place hasn't become unsustainable. It's been allowed to become unsustainable through years of underfunding, ignored warnings, and a lack of strategic planning. That's not misfortune, that's a failure of governance. The same management now recommending the closure were responsible for its upkeep. If the roof of a public facility collapsed after years of neglect, will we close the building or hold someone accountable? We keep hearing this isn't council's responsibility, but the fact is, council has taken on this responsibility for decades, and rural communities like ours depend on that. Walking away now without a real plan isn't responsible, it's retreat. And here's what makes the decision dangerous. There's no credible alternative. My aged care wait times in Merriwar are up to 12 months for the in-home care. One local provider has already withdrawn services. If Gummun closes, our elderly will be displaced, not supported. As a health professional, I can tell you this will harm people. There will be more hospitalisations, more ambulance call-outs, more pressure on a state system already stretched. There are real, measurable consequences, and they will fall back on the vulnerable. We don't need more internal reviews or closed-door decisions. We need transparency, accountability, and for this council to actually advocate higher levels of government, not offload responsibility. Councillors, this is your moment. Stand with your community. Don't let mismanagement decide the fate of Gummun Place. Keep it open and fight for the care Merriwa deserves. That's it.
Thanks, Rob. You've touched on previously some alternate strategies or alternate pathways. In your opinion, being a medical professional, are there other alternates, and a community-based board or model, is that an option?
Well, they had that at Denman. It would take time to bring that up. It's certainly worth considering. But this is a watershed moment for rural health. This is a moment when Australia decides whether towns like Merriwa, people can stay at home and age in their community. The federal government currently has a survey out trying to get feedback on the modified Monash system, of which Merriwa is at M5, which is small population and isolated, and they are aware that there are big issues in this area, and they've recommended training, infrastructure investments, and and innovative solutions that meet the community's requirements. So I think we are hampered here by three levels of government, and then the local government's been drawn into this. The state government should really be at the table. We're not hearing anything from them. I rang the primary health network today. They had very limited feedback. The federal government seems to be washing its hands of this situation, and it can't be allowed to do that. So we really need them to stand up. We need our federal representatives to stand up, but we need you to stand by with us and see this fight through. This is not just about Merriwa. This is about every town across Australia of Merriwa's size. So this is a key moment. The federal government think they can shut down aged care and move everyone to a bigger town. That doesn't work for us. We want to stay in the community where we live, where we're grown up, where we're familiar, and it's achievable. It can be done. You look at Denman, look what they've done. It would be wonderful to have that. So I think we need to look at ways and means of getting there.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor McGill?
Yeah, after Singleton closed, there was a lot of difficulty getting people into new accommodation. Do you have a sense of what could happen to 16 people in Laneway? Is there alternative accommodation within QE? Well,
I don't have specifics. I did have a brief conversation with the Primary Health Network the other day, and they were saying that even the there are not many beds available at all. And as for the consultant's reference, who wrote the report for you, to say that everyone should move to the coast, it was just totally irrelevant. Like, I don't know what that guy was thinking. He was totally out of context. He didn't focus in on who he was talking to. So whilst the big providers, the ones that actually forced the Royal Commission to come into place, whilst they might want everyone to uproot and move there, I don't think people should have to. And I think everyone here tonight thinks they shouldn't have to either.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor McPhee?
Meanwhile, we all agree that we don't want to alter people misplaced or displaced. So that's definitely something that this is a very difficult decision for everybody here. My question is, are you also considering, along with Stephen, to be part of this cooperative from Mary Moore's perspective, that you would eventually be able to take over the facility?
I'll assist in whatever way I can. Being a rural health professional, I'm generally working 12 hours a day, 60-hour weeks, on the tools already. So I have to look at where I can best serve the community. But certainly I'd like to be involved.
Okay, any further questions? I've just got a couple of quick ones. Has Gummun Place always been high key unit, HK unit?
Look, I don't know. Mine, Stephen probably have a better idea.
Starting out, it's just a hostel.
Yeah, I don't believe it's adapted to what the changing needs of the community.
So the ballpark has moved dramatically over the years.
Predictably so.
Thank you. And the other one, I've written at least 6 letters to politicians. I've met politicians before the election. There's none of them offered anything. I believe one of them went to Merriwall.
Yep.
Were you involved with asking them for support if they were?
Yep.
And the answer?
They said they would assist if they could. They didn't make any commitments. They weren't in a position to make any commitments. So,
Right,
but certainly I took it as a genuine concern.
Right.
And I really think it'd be worthwhile to get the authors of the Aged Commission to the Royal Commission to Aged Care to actually comment on the effect of the Royal Commission. I don't think it was ever their intention to have rural places lose aged care from their towns.
So you're confident that the powers that be in government at the moment will come forward with funding? We all know
They have to. We have to stand by until they do.
Right, so how do I take that off to Canberra or Sydney or whatever?
Well, don't shut it down for a start.
Well, I mean, that's.
We have seen at Walcott that their council has stood up. So their aged care provider left town, and their council went in and stood beside them, shoulder to shoulder, and that's what we want from you guys.
I think by writing those 6 or 7 letters in meeting, we've done our fair part. The ball's in their court. Right? What more do you want me to do as the mayor and the general manager to get the point across to the government that's in power today? The federal government?
First thing is not shut it down.
Right, so that'll be made the decision today.
Yep.
And then?
And then we'll just continue to put pressure.
And how long do you think that pressure will take?
Until as long as it takes.
As long as it takes.
Thank you. Any more questions? No, thank you. Okay, Davy Peebles, representing the community of Gummun Place. Here to state whether you're for or against the recommendation. Davy, you haven't got here on whether you're for or against the recommendation.
Definitely, we don't want to see it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors, and people in the gallery. Well done. I'm speaking purely from a humanitarian point of view. To say Gummun Place must not be compromised and must be staying in the community. Overseen by the pre-amalgamated Merriwell Council in 91, Gummun Place was built with foresight, extensive community consultation, fundraising, and generously donated land. And it has been an integral part of our community for more than 30 years. When of working age, we don't tend to think of being old. People are busy building a career and raising a family. But as we age, we need to make decisions. Gummun Place has been a real and happy choice, and this is as it should be. When Gummun Place was built, it was fit for purpose. So for 31 years, now with age and changing standards, it needs much updating. Since the three councils amalgamated, it would seem that the updates needed at Gummun Place did not keep pace with requirements, and we are now at the crossroads that are presented this evening. Unfortunately, none of the so-called consultation has provided a timeline of the work done to maintain Gummun Place to the required standard, and reasons as to how we have arrived at today's depressing and deplorable situation. Gummun Place is built on approximately half of the land that was donated. There must be multiple ideas involving the current location to provide for our elderly and other community needs. Why can't we rebuild Gummun Place and use the present building for other community needs? The people of Marywar, with its limited resources, have always been and always will be solutions oriented. Gummun Place community raised the funds, and the community fundraising is ongoing. All we ask for is assistance in finding the solution. To be part of that solution, we're there. Yet to date, all we've been told that it is too hard. Council engaged a consultant, and the consultant seems to have completed their paper to arrive at council's desired conclusion. That one consultant does not appreciate how solutions-oriented the people of Marywar are. We don't need a 100-bed facility. We need a solution that puts need ahead of profit and keeps people at the centre of decision making. That's where it started, and that's where it should remain. Why must our people from our area have to think of relocating when they have lived, worked, paid rates and taxes, and contributed to their community for many decades? Gummun Place has given people a choice. Not everyone can age at home, and people choose to enter Gummun Place with their varying needs. Therefore, they have chosen to make Gummun Place their home, where family and friends are close by and staff become like family too. And they are happy even without the city level standards imposed on them. In our democracy, we have 3 tiers of government. Local government is to listen and hear local issues. The community does not think that's an unreasonable expectation to have our local government that is meant to work with our interests and needs in mind. I've just got a couple more sentences to go.
I think I'll let you do that, David, without asking the other councillors.
Thank you. Federal levels to ensure a workable solution is found. There has to be a solution for any community to solve the problem. Not just, we just don't want to run away from it. We do not need a grandiose facility. We just want one that will work efficiently with love and care. All of which can happen with people outcomes at the centre of proper consultation. We're not just a financial consideration, we're people. We are a community that gives our all involve us in finding a solution. It's amazing what can happen when communities come together. Thank you very much.
That's a very long 2 cents.
It's easy to see that we're all very passionate about our area.
Councillors, Councillor McGill, question?
Yes, you spoke a lot about the actual facility, the bricks and mortar. If there is a solution for the 16 residents that doesn't involve that bricks and mortar, is the community supportive of that? Or are we so wedded to that particular site that has to be there?
It's the building that's there is only on a small portion of the whole site that we have available. And so I just feel the community wants the place, not necessarily particularly where it is, but because we have the space, that's the important part.
Thank you.
Councillors, any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, councillors, NM 05.1, proposed DA 168/2023, application for tourist and visitor accommodation units at 108 Bedding Street, Marywar. We've got Roger Saunders representing Elders Marywar against the recommendation. Against the recommendation.
Thanks, councillors, for having me tonight. I'm here just representing Elders on behalf as a business owner. Actually read the list of the property there. About business. I can't hear you. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I'm not used to this, sorry. So I'm posing not just the 3.55, but yeah, 3.55 intrusion into the Laneway. We're not opposing the actual DA of the units, it's just that section. And that will impact on the Elders business and also with Hemel Transport and IGA trucks coming in and out. Also touched on the Dutch nest side of things with pedestrians in the car park and so forth. Yes, we do have our semis coming in the back lane. But we make our drivers aware that to look out for vehicles because there isn't a mirror there for the blind spots. But Elders is prepared to put a blind spot mirror up there so that all vehicles, even the car park and also the trucks coming up the lane, to see that car park area. So that, of course, take that risk away that anyone gets hurt or run into the vehicles, so forth. Because as just as last month we had our extension approved by council, but we wasn't aware of this Laneway was happening at that time. So that has now impacted our decision going ahead with our extension. Because we do rely on that Laneway to have the trucks go straight through back onto the street. So it's just one straight out. There's no backing in off the street, which is where it's going to be the largest issue for us. So as across the CRT, the truck's always got to pull up in the middle of the road and back into their yard to unload, where we can actually drive straight through, and that takes the motion of anyone getting hurt or run over or whatever out there. So yeah, so we just want to know what's happening in that regard. Like we spent $12,000 at that time about 19 years ago, and we just want to know what's happening with that money that was spent to do all that drainage work. Because we were the main distributors back then of that amount of 19,000. So it was just like, no, why this hasn't been done when it was promised to be done. That's about all I've got.
Thank you. Questions, councillors? Gil?
Yeah, there's a couple of curious things that come out of this DA. One is a roadway that no one says it exists, but it does. It's not only does it exist, council just put the gravel on it.
Who would do that?
We've heard a couple of times that people weren't informed. Now, this DA's been in since February 23. As a neighbour, you weren't informed, is that?
Yeah, that's correct, because we're not the actual owners of the business, of the land, so that would have went to our landlord, but he said today, he has no record of that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Director, you've got a record of.
Mr. Mayor, I have a record of that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Councillor Dodds?
Thanks, Roger. What was the belief, your belief, when the 12K you spent 19 years ago was actually for?
That was for the drainage work, but I can understand back then because it was way before my time. So I've only been at the Elders for 10 years this year. So this was all new to me, and understanding that there was Elders or Getson's thing when we took over Getson, put in $12,000 to help with the drainage work and with other local businesses surrounding. And so Elders was the main distributor of that. But then we was only led to believe that council was going to gazette move the boundaries to turn that into an actual laneway or road. And thank you.
Any further questions? It's just one, I said I went into the dome, had a good look. Your trucks come up that laneway and out your other access. That's the way they always travel.
Yes, that's why our traffic management plan is.
Right. So how could a 6 metre laneway, when it's parking your gate and a little bit offset, wouldn't they still be able to do exactly the same?
Yes, but I'm supporting this surrounding businesses because it's going to impact them.
Yeah, thank you. No further questions? Thank you. Good. Okay, Danielle Cronin, representing the Marywall Supermarkets. Marywall plus liquor against the recommendation. So just to clear, you're against Councillor Stoltz's recommendation to gazette the road?
No, I'm for Councillor Stoltz's recommendation.
Okay, I'll go against here.
It says 4 on the screen.
No, that's fine.
Mr. Mayor, councillors, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening as a representative of Marywall Supermarkets Proprietary Limited, trading as IGA Marywall plus liquor. As you know, I wish to speak to NMO 5.01, and I commend the motion and urge all our councillors to adopt it because it highlights and addresses the issues of the proposed DA's encroachment into the adjacent laneway. The unlaned laneway has been continuously used by IGA, its suppliers, its customers, and local businesses for more than 20 years. The proprietors of IGA Marywall believe that the issue regarding the laneway had been resolved years ago after making a financial contribution to council with the explicit understanding that it would be allocated towards the gazetting of a public road. Several documents have been provided to council by Councillor Stoltz as evidence to support this claim. And we strongly encourage the council to review these documents prior to making a decision on the proposal concerning 108 Beddington Street, Marywall. The current form of the development application, particularly the reduction of the laneway's width by 3.55 metres, constitutes a clear violation of the council's commitment to all affected businesses. IGA Marywall objects to the proposal in its current form, as the reduction in the laneway width poses several issues for IGA's business and the safety of its customers. Many residents use the IGA car park as a safer alternative to parking on the highway. Public access to and from the car park is via this laneway, and any reduction in the width will create traffic issues that would lead to a compromise to public safety. Restricted access for large vehicles. IGA is the only supermarket in Marywall and relies on large delivery vehicles having access to its loading dock several times a week. We note the staff comments number 6 that was made and detailed in Councillor Stoltz's motion by way of mitigation to this issue, suggesting that B doubles could be parked on the highway and smaller vehicles used to deliver to the shop.
Really, yeah.
To be clear, this is in no way a mitigation to the issue, as council would have learned if they had consulted the business. Not only is it outside the control of IGA Mary Ward to direct Metcash as its largest supplier to unload groceries on a highway, but it's also financially untenable, not to mention the implications for food safety requirements, OH&S, and the list goes on. Keeping the full width of the laneway is imperative for safe and efficient business operations. Moreover, IGA Marywar should not be financially burdened by a neighbouring development as a local business that proactively sought to secure its operations through an agreement with council many years ago, establishing legal right of access via the laneway. While it's acknowledged that the usual DA process is to allow adjoining property owners to consider the proposal, the owners of IGA, like the other businesses here tonight, would like to make it known that they received no communication regarding the amendment to this proposal. It is, and let me be clear, the amendment to the proposal that seeks to encroach on the laneway and impact surrounding local businesses, and that is what is being objected to tonight, now that the owners are aware of it. This laneway is essential for the operation of local businesses and for public safety. Its preservation ensures legal rights of access, maintains safe traffic conditions, and fulfills commitments by council to the local community. Thank you for your time this evening, and conclude with asking that you accept motion MN 05.1 as put forward by Councillor Scholes, as it is in the best interest of the Marywar community and the impacted businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, questions? Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Daniel. If this goes badly and the proponent decides to block this lane, which they have a right to, do you have access, any other access?
I'm going to answer your question in two parts there. So firstly, we don't actually agree that the proponent has the legal right to, because we believe that there has been an issue where the road should have been gazetted prior. However, if it's found that that's not the case, I would say honestly, no, IGA doesn't have an alternative, which is a very scary outcome for a small town.
I agree. And we have quite a quandary here.
We certainly do.
As councillors, because our legal advice says that that is more than possible. And that would cause a lot of impact there. There seems to be a simple solution here, but the proponent doesn't particularly want to look down that line. And it is about being civil in our community. But this is a quandary that may not be prepared by a decision given here tonight, and will be up to individual personalities, whether we like it or not. It is quite a quad one. But so you're suggesting, so you would not have access to the back of your shop for deliveries. I also agree with Big Apple's parking on the front there, that there is not an option. But also I note that your block there is also private land over this roadway. Would there be an expectation that you would be looking to work with council to cut that part of your block off as well, to gazette it, and that is because I'd see there being all sorts of issues here, and this is the problem we have when we get into a legal sense, because there's restricted assets for everybody if we change ownerships, and that can happen at the drop of a hat.
Absolutely. Look, I obviously wasn't around at the time when the original conversations were entered into and the documentation. However, my understanding is that Keith and Wendy Richards actually agreed to concede some land already. And that was a part of the contribution that they made, not just financial, but a land concession in order to be able to achieve the best outcome for all connected businesses and the community of Maryville. So obviously I am speaking as their representative and I'm not going to hold them to anything here tonight, but my understanding is that was already in their mind done, and it was what they signed up for many, many years ago, believing that then would lead to the gazetting of a public road.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Councillor McGill?
Where people park and that access back to your, that's your real estate.
Where they actually park, in the car park, yes.
Yeah. We've heard a lot about the proponent potentially blocking the laneway. We haven't heard anything about everyone else blocking the proponent, so no one can get into the motel. Is that a feasible option?
I comment on behalf of everybody, but it most certainly could end up happening, yes.
That's public road. Yeah, couldn't be long. You didn't say that earlier. Can you wish to comment on that, please?
The Laneway comes to this property is actually public road. So there is access to this property through
Any other further questions? I've just got one quick question. B doubles, do they come to your IGA?
I believe on occasion they do, depending on the supplier and the amount that they're delivering.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, councillors, that broke the record. Confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 28th of April 2025. Mover. Move Councillor Fee, second Councillor Williamson. Questions, comment? All in favour? Against? Motion is carried. Disclosure of interest. No received this morning. Move straight on to the Environment and Community Services on page 14, where we'll do these as 4 different dot points. Dot point 1 is just adopt the minutes. Mover. Move Councillor McGill with it. Seconder. Councillor Stoltz. Questions, comment? All in favour? Against? Carried. Dot point 2 is approved development application number 16H/2023 for tourist and visitors accommodation. Don't be shy, councillors. Remember we've got A and B. I better just read, I'll read it out, is part B, investigate the dedication of the unnamed laneway as a public road. Doing these in together. So first one and B comes together. The mover as is. Move Councillor Stoltz. Seconder. Councillor McPhee. Questions, comment, discussion. Councillor Stoltz, you first, right, as the mover.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Michael, if I push the button. Look, we've had some very passionate and constructive speakers today. Why this DA shouldn't progress in its current format. There's been significant issues and commentary around health and safety. We have an ageing population, as most of the councillors are aware, in the Maryville area, and that would be greatly compromised if this application was to proceed in its current format. We also have issues that I believe need to be dealt with in terms of historically. you yourself, Mr. Mayor, made a comment that this wasn't our fault. We weren't here when this all transpired. However, I've got a difference of opinion to that. I think in our current duties, as in our civic duties, we need to address this issue firstly and foremostly before we entertain whether we approve an officer's act.
Just hold on a minute. I'm a little confused. You moved the recommendation to approve,
Yes.
but you're speaking against, correct?
No.
You moved to approve the development application as dot points A and B.
No, I'm speaking against, yes.
You moved the recommendation. You moved, but you're speaking against. Right, yeah, keep going.
Excellent. We also looked at some potential legal issues which councillors here have raised concerns about, and those are that, yes, in its current format, the proponent has the land within the laneway. It isn't a road. However, I have shared some information that was provided to me which would indicate on the balance of probabilities that the affected businesses, the custom and practice, which is an implied term of law, are factors that also need to be taken into consideration. So these businesses, in their own due right, have the opportunity with this matter, if they're not happy to take legal action, raising some of those points that have been raised in the legal correspondence that council's received in relation to this matter that we've been privy to see. So it isn't a laydown that's there in terms legally for any of the parties. So we could very well end up either way this pans out before the Land and Environment Court. Looking at the documentation, I believe we need to address this before we can proceed. The evidence or the balance of probabilities, at least, I believe there was an intention to register this laneway, and for whatever reason it failed all those years ago. Moving forward, we can have amicable arrangements, but it's just like a divorce, Mr. Mayor. We could end up having all sorts of trouble there, and I think the ball is in our court if we need to make a compulsory acquisition or there's voluntary acquisition. We need to address this now and not let it fester on for the next 20 or 30 years.
Thank you, Councillor Stoltz. The seconder was Councillor McPhee. No. Councillor Fraser, you're the seconder?
No,
Alison, you wish to speak? No? Any other speakers? Councillor Fraser, you're speaking
Against.
against the recommendation?
It appears there's a long and storied history in relation to this this particular laneway, and I don't think council's covered itself in glory in how this has been dealt with over the years. It's certainly my concern that the current proposal by the proponent is that there be a licence effectively granted to people to use a certain part of that area as a roadway. That, in my view, gives no assurance of any long-term access to the users, to elders, to IGA, and anyone else who have traditionally used that laneway. I note that the proposal is for a limited area of that laneway and for a car park and also a container to be quite close. In my view, the appropriate action the council to take would be to acquire the width of the existing laneway that runs through the proponent's lot, and also for because we're going to share the payment equally for there to be a compulsory acquisition of appropriate amounts of land in the laneway where elders and IGA in order to facilitate a gazetted laneway through there. On that basis, it's my view that the DA should not be approved in its current form. There should be appropriate steps taken, and I do know that there's a further notice of motion that's proposed later in the meeting for compulsory acquisition. And I think that should be explored. On that basis, I'm not in favour of approving the DA, as I am of the view that will only complicate what is, I think, the necessary process of acquiring a suitable portion of that lot in order to facilitate the executing of a proper laneway through that lot.
Thank you, Councillor Fraser. Any other speakers? Councillor McGill, for or against?
Against.
Against?
I opposed this at the committee meeting, and nothing that's been said today or at any other point has changed my mind on the issue. The unnamed laneway is such a vital asset to the town. People have really told us that they need it. I would be suggesting that either we defer this for further consideration, or we approve it but without the 9th unit. But that 9th unit, that's the one that impinges, and that's where the issue comes. It's clear that everyone's intention was to declare it as a road at some point. Unfortunately, that fell through the cracks during the amalgamation process. We can't all cry over that one. It happened. Going forward, if we permit or approve this development as cited now, going forward, we will have an ongoing sore festering in that community. I think now's the time to actually grab it by the nettle, get that road sorted out, then we can get development sorted out.
No, just turn your mic off, Councillor. Councillor Fraser. Keep not speaking.
I want to speak against, if I may.
Against, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to take a slightly different angle on this, and I'm going to refer back to the comments that were made by Mr. Gowland. Whilst I concede that this is largely, or perhaps entirely even, a complying development, and as a number of the speakers actually indicated, if done the right way, it would actually be a good for our community. So I endorse those comments, but I also agree with the idea that that the social and environmental aspects of this need to be included, and typically that comes by way, in a lot of instances, by way of the comment from the community. So, but I do offer a word of sage advice around this as well, because I also agree with his comment that this is actually largely a legal question that ultimately we can't answer. And irrespective of the result of the vote this evening, the proponent would have the right to appeal and thereby take it to the Land and Environment Court, who could adjudicate on it. And who knows which way they might go. But at least they have some natural justice in that part. So as a representative of my community, I have to listen to what they say and their objections against this development. But I do caution them that there is a cost, and it still may not get the outcome that they want, subject to whatever the Land Environment Court comes down to, if it gets to that stage. So I kind of have a statement of question, and I'm happy to be corrected here, but this is with regard to the second part, which is the gaining the title on that land. I fail to see, considering that, how that could be effectively done unless this DA is resolved. So I agree that we should pursue the appropriate titling of that lane, subject to the outcome of this DA application. So we have to resolve that. And again, I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's pretty clear. I don't see how we can preempt the adjudication on this DA by trying to get that gazetting done. So I just simply put those 2 points out there. So I'm just making it very clear that that I'm against the approval of this DA, recognising the ramifications that may create, and that ultimately the decision may well be out of our hands. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. You wish to put that up? Do you wish to speak to it?
Through Mr. Mayor, There is another option, the council can grant partial consent to the development, so consent could be granted. Subject to a condition that unit number 9, I think it isn't approved. Oh, unit 1, sorry.
I would move partial approval.
I'm happy to second that.
That'll have to be a foreshadow, councillors.
So understood, I foreshadow.
Foreshadow. And so that'll sit in the waiting room for this time. No other speakers. Councillor Stoll, you have the right to finish debate as the last speaker. You've said enough.
No, I don't think there's any more I can add, Mr. Mayor, tonight. We have issues with this and now our time to address it head on.
Thank you. I'm only going to make a quick comment. It concerns me if that laneway is blocked off. It would become immediate disruption to businesses. But anyway, it's the end of the debate, councillors. So I'm going to put the recommendation. I suppose I could put just quickly, McGill, Councillor McGill, the foreshadowed wording. Partial.
That the DA be approved partially.
Exclusion of
Exclusion of unit 9.
One.
Oh, it's 1, is it?
One. Yep, one.
Oh, it's numbered 1, sorry, yeah.
Right, so that's if this motion is down, we'll go to the foreshadows. Councillors, A and B of the original motion. Those in favour of the original motion.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
I don't rabble on this, right?
Okay, councillors. So no one voted for the original, did they? That's correct. Okay, that motion is lost. We're going to Councillor McGill's foreshadowed. Have we got a seconder?
Seconded.
Second, Councillor Ryan. Councillor McGill, you wish to speak to the foreshadowed?
Does that give you enough, Matt? Probably want to word it similar to A.
I think you just put DA at the front and exclude unit at the end.
You have the council grant partial consent to DA number blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then we have a condition of consent as well. So no approval is given or required for unit 1.
And then part B comes through as well.
Put part B in that foreshadow.
And that foreshadow, yeah, investigate the dedication, etc.
Okay.
I think after all the debate and discussion, this is a way forward for us. It still gives us an opportunity and certainly gives the proponent an opportunity in due course if we do get the road sorted out to come back and have a chat to us. But at this stage, that means they can go ahead with some part of their development and satisfies the needs in the meantime of the community.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Secondly, you're right. Any other speakers ready to be moving that to put the motion? Yes. Councillor Ryan, put the motion?
Yes.
Okay, putting that. Councillor Fraser.
My question's a technical one. Removing unit 1, will that give sufficient setback from the notional line of the laneway? I'm asking someone who's more expert than me in this. Will removing unit 1 give sufficient setback to unit 2 in order to allow the laneway, if there were to be, and I suggest there should be a process in the due course of compulsory acquisition of that part of lot 1 and late, to continue the laneway through in the same dimensions? Will there be sufficient setback from units 2 if unit 1 is removed?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, that's right. We'll be set back sufficiently.
Thank you.
Okay, no further. I'm going to put the motion as the foreshadowed on the board. All in favour? Against? Motion is carried as the foreshadowed. Down to 3. ECSC 05.2 endorse the planning proposal Moved councillor Williamson, seconded councillor McGill. Questions, comment, discussion? Councillor Williamson.
Quickly, I'd just like to mention, positive changes here on the LEP front. The DA staff worked really diligently at this and have cleaned up a lot of areas, and we've just gone through something that needed cleaning up many years ago, but the staff are onto it now and they're cleaning up a lot of the work in the LEP, which is very important, especially on drinking water catchment areas, manufactured homes, tourist and visitor accommodation and heritage. Special mentions to manufactured homes now being permissible on R5 large lot residential, RU1 primary production, RU4 primary production, small lot, RU5 village, and C3 environmental management. Changes to a myriad of heritage items, including 21 different properties that might have been some of them had the wrong lots, and there was quite a bit of cleaning up there. It's made it easier for residents to conduct DAs without compromising Upper Hunter's history. Also improving safety to our drinking water. Congratulate staff and support their changes.
Councillor Williamson, councillor McGill.
Yeah, look, I just rise to support the motion. There were some issues with some of the heritage listing. I know my place was listed twice at the wrong address, but I've discussed that with the director and I believe that's all been dealt with. So yeah, I support this.
Thank you. No more speakers. Put the recommendation as is. The 2 points A and B. In favour? Against? Carried. Down to 4 ECSC 05.3. Approve the development application number 34/2022 for a service station takeaway food and drink premises, Queen Street, Aberdeen. Move councillor Williamson, seconder, councillor Fraser. Any questions, comment, discussion? Councillor Williamson, you wish just the mover?
I don't have much to say on this. We've seen this a couple of times, but I will note that the development of this site, as per recommended, will rectify Aberdeen's much maligned Food Works car park, and I think that's very important for that community. But it is also a big opportunity for this development. It's going to be in prime position on a highway that has bypassed all the other towns within the near future.
Thank you. Seconder, councillor Fraser. Wish to councillor McGill speaking for or against?
Speaking for, I think this has been to the committee a couple of times. It's gone off with some of our considerations and been addressed. And certainly one of the biggest ones was the hours of trade. They were proposing 24 hours, now it's like 6 till 9. I think that's going to be an asset to the Aberdeen community.
Thank you. I might make a comment. Councillor Shield, you get your light on?
I won't actually speak against this, but I want to preface my comments by saying that a service station and a fast food outlet in Aberdeen would be terrific. My problem with this is the cost shifting that the proponent has proposed by having entry into this site via Perth Street. Clearly, they've decided that entry off McQueen Street is either too expensive or Transport for New South Wales is making it too difficult. But in doing that, they are shifting that cost onto the residents that live in Perth Street, and I think that's an unacceptable position for those people. As I've said, preface my comments with saying we need that service station in Aberdeen, but in its current format, I think it does not at all benefit Aberdeen in terms of traffic management, because vehicles coming north along the New England Highway will have to turn right into Perth Street and then right again into the service station. I think that the proponent has simply decided that the community can carry the cost that he doesn't want to spend. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Shields. Certainly agree with first thread access. No other speakers?
Just clarification, Mr Pringle, I understand Transport for New South Wales had a lot to say about the access.
Yes, Transport have reviewed the plans and the proposed concept design. They're happy with the proposals. Same as our own engineers and council. And review those plans to satisfy with the plans. We're kind of spending, we'll have to spend a fair bit of money on upgrading the intersection. There's new turning lanes proposed and so on, and widening of the intersection as well. So they will be necessarily spending some money.
Thank you. No other comment, question? Okay, I'm going to put the motion to approve. All those in favour? Councillor Williamson, Councillor Stoltz, Councillor Ryan, Councillor McPhee, Councillor McGill, Councillor Fraser, Councillor Clout, against, Councillor Collison and Shields. The motion is carried. Over to page 99, infrastructure services. The recommendation to 2 points. Move, Councillor Ryan. This is for the new Rural Roads Advisory Committee of Councillor Wilkinson, Ryan and McGill as alternate. For a seconder, Councillor Fraser. Questions, comment, discussion. Councillor.
Yeah, just a very quick comment, probably because it's the only opportunity I'm going to get. I would like to say thank you to those people that put their hand up to participate on behalf of their communities. I'm very grateful that we actually have 5 members of this new committee out in Maribor. So I know that doesn't relate to the actual item of appointing us as councillors, but it's the only opportunity I get to do that. So I'd just like to make that statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? For or against? Put the motion. Against, carried. Over to page 104, corporate services. Move Councillor Williamson, second Councillor Shields. Questions, comment, discussion. All in favour? Against, carried. Over to page 108, C05.1, council committees and membership nomination. Move up. Move Councillor Clout, second Councillor McGill. Questions, comment, discussion. All in favour? Against, carried. Over to page 111 is the C05.2, Arts of the Upper Hunter Board. Move Councillor McGill, second Councillor Williamson. Questions, comment, discussion. Councillor McGill.
For the minutes say it all, Arts Upper Hunter has been just recently been awarded a funding grant through Create New South Wales, 217,000 for the next 4 years. So they've got some stability going forward, which is to be applauded. So I support the organisation and support the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 120 is Upper Hunter Shire Traffic Committee. A mover. Move Councillor Stoltz, second Councillor Williamson. Questions, comment, discussion. Councillor Williamson.
Just quickly for those in the crowd, that is about blocking the road for Festival of the Fleeces, and that'll happen at Burnham.
Councillor Williamson. All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 129, long-term financial plan, public exhibition. 123, I missed one, have I? There we go, 123, Community Advisory Committee of Aberdeen District. Move Councillor McPhee, second Councillor Shields. Questions, comment, discussion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Late report here, councillors. Everyone got a late report in front of them? Is the Gummun Place Hostel Advisory Committee meeting. We're going to move it, Councillor Ryan, seconder, Councillor Clout. Questions, comment, discussion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 129, it's the long-term financial plan. A mover. Move Councillor Cloud, second. Councillor Stoltz. Questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. F05.2, page 132. Approve iPart special rate variation. Council intends to adopt. A mover. Move Councillor Fraser, seconder Councillor Williamson. Questions, comment, discussion? Councillor Fraser, you wish to speak?
Yes, I support I support the motion and suggest that it be passed unamended. It is vital to the ongoing delivery of services of this council that the special rate variation be approved. In full, we've seen modelling for the implementation over different year groups, and in my view, it does not assist the council's operations. I suggest to council that the motion as presented be passed as is, and that the special rate variation permanent cumulative 10% over 3 years, commencing 1 July 2025, at the end of June 2025, for the council meeting to be passed.
Councillor Fraser, seconder Councillor Williamson. Wish to add, you happy for that? Okay, other speakers for or against? Councillor McGill.
Yes, I'd like to speak against the motion. Consultation, it's been awful. 37 people applied, responded to IPART. That just shows you a community that's not engaged. There's over 7,000 ratepayers in the Shire, and 37 people filled in an online questionnaire. Some of the response you see on social media, people are saying, well, why should we allow council to have a special rate variation? All we're doing is rewarding them for bad decisions in the past. I don't completely subscribe to that, but the council in the past has engaged in a number of discretionary projects that are non-core and demonstrated edifice complex. But for me, the real issue is structural. We have been amalgamated into a situation where this council is not and will not ever become viable. It is always going to limp along. This special rate variation will be followed by the next one, and the next one, and the next one. It's just not viable. Too much real estate and not enough ratepayers. It's the bottom line. And the federal and the state keep making decisions that impact back on this community and expect on the one hand that the taxpayers will get some relief, but the ratepayers, who happen to be the same people, won't get any relief, and they'll get double hit. In 2014, when they paused all the amalgamations in suburban Sydney, Premier Baird gave them a way out. He invented the special rate variation for the amalgamated councils so they could top it up. And curiously, in this round of special rate variations across the state, the majority of those applying have been amalgamated councils. When is OLG going to admit that amalgamation did not work anywhere in the state and continues not to work as we go forward? If I look at the Shire, the 2021 census shows us 14,000 people, private dwellings 6,500, and we have 7,698 ratepayers. Who's paying those rates? There's about 6.4 million coming from the farmland, 5 million from residential, and another 1+ million from business, and then the small towns, they contribute as well. But when you look at where the rates are actually coming from and where the expenses are engendered, Aberdeen 570,000, Cassilis 30, Merriwa 380, Murrurundi 332, Scone 2.9 million. That's rate income. That's what they're paid. Then you look at the rural villages, it's another 1.5 million. So when you talk about urgent needs in Merriwell, the bulk of that money to support those urgent needs will come from outside of Merriwell. The Shire, we will all work collectively and cross-subsidise each other. What really concerns me as well is the capacity to pay. If you look, who are we in the Shire? Under 20, 24% of us are under 20 years old, which is about national average. Over 65, it's 21.2, which is 4% above national average. We are an old community and it gets worse. Over 55, 2.9. The average national is 2.1. We have major pockets of age. Merriwell, 3.8. Murrurundi, 4.7. Scone, 3.2. That's against a national average of 2.1. We're significantly older. People over 85 in our Shire, 406. This is the 21 census. 69 in Merriwell, 44 in Murrurundi, and 160 in Scone. So the old people are living right across. The median age in the Shire, 38 is the national median age. Upper Hunter, 42. And then again, we have breakouts. Murrurundi, the median age is 54. Bunnan, 53. Moonan Flat, 46. 45 in Merriwell. We have significant villages that are way over the national age median. Our health statistics are shocking. Arthritis, asthma, diabetes, heart, kidneys, stones, strokes, mental health, they're all over the national average. Similarly with education, the degrees and diplomas are about national average. Most of the people in the Shire have certificates 3 and 4. When you get to households, 68% of our households are families, some 28% are singles. In Murrurundi, that's up to 40%. Now that represents a lot of widows and widowers living on their own, still staying in the town they probably lived in their whole life. Curiously, in the Shire, we have fairly high home ownership, mainly because people have owned them when they were affordable many years ago. And our mortgage rate is about national average, so is our rental. And this is the real killer, the income per household per week. And the census measured it, anyone under $650 per week into a single household, 21% of our population are in that bucket. The national average is 16.5. In Murrurundi, we're up to 33% of households have less than $650 coming in. In Merriwell, 27%. A third of your population in Merriwell have less than $650 a week. They also measured over 3,000 a week. And at that point, we came in quite high, 26.9 against the national average. But the median across the Shire is about $1,400 a week. Bunnan gets down to $784 a week. Murrurundi, it gets down to $877. I say we have pockets in our community who are, if they're not in poverty, are close to it. And those people will be disadvantaged by this increase. And you may well say, but it's only about $4 a week, about $208. The reality is that's a bill. That's a payment on a new tyre. That's a payment on part of the phone bill, part of the electricity bill. That will hit our aged pensioners and our self-retired, self-funded retirees as hard as any other bill. I say no to the SRV. I don't believe our community can afford it.
Anyone speakers for? Any other speakers against? Okay, we're going to put the motion as the recommendation as is. Those in favour? Colson, Williamson, Shields, Ryan, McPhee, Fraser and Clout 4. Against? Councillor McGill and Stoltz. Motion is carried. Over to page 138. The internal loan from the Water and Sewer Fund. Councillors, read the 3 dot points thoroughly. Got a mover. Who? Councillor McPhee, second Councillor Clout. Questions, comment? From the mover first. Councillor Clout. Okay, speakers, against? Councillor Fraser.
Well, I have concerns. I have concerns about the ongoing recourse to the Water and Sewer Fund as a form of funding. Councils to be commended, in my view, that no new external loans have been taken out for some considerable time. It's not intended that there be further external loans taken out, but I do know the attraction that the Water and Sewer Fund seem to have for internal loans. I have had discussions and I have been assured that the purpose of this vote is to make these funds available should they be required to meet a potential, though not realised, shortfall in the payment of grant monies. And it's not that those grant monies aren't coming, it's that there's a timing issue with those grant monies being paid. Those grant monies are expected, but we haven't got a certainty that they will be forthcoming when they were originally expected. On that basis, it's my understanding that this vote is to provide access to those funds should they be needed to meet a short-term shortfall until those grant funds are received. I don't necessarily speak against the vote, but I do express my concern at the ongoing recourse to the Water and Sewer Fund as a form of, let's put it this way, overdraft. I do note that there have been repayments made. The amount was borrowed previously. I understand that there was a payment in March. I understand there's been another payment recently, and that of the sums borrowed, there is only 2.5 million yet to be repaid. On that basis, Council is making repayments as required. However, I do express my concern. I do understand the reason for this vote, that it is to provide some comfort and leeway should it be required, rather than with an intent to actually draw down on that loan. That is my understanding. On that basis, I'm not necessarily against the vote, but I do express my concern.
Councillor Fraser, any other speakers? Councillor Ryan.
More of a question, and in light of Councillor Fraser's concerns, and I do note that he is indicating that he's not necessarily against the vote. But what I'd like clarification of is that if this internal loan facility were not made available, what would be the ramifications of that?
Yes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. If we go into negative cash position, we have to report that to the local government. It's technically a breach, and it's also a breach of our existing loan terms with the Treasury. So last year we had to report that through the auditors if there was any negative cash. Because council had made this decision previously, we didn't actually get to that position because we had the sufficient funds in water and sewer to ensure that there is no negative cash position. As Councillor Fraser pointed out, it's a short-term provision just to ensure that our general fund doesn't go negative, or because plenty of money sitting in our water and sewer fund. And our accounting standards require that each one be accounted for separately, and this is a mechanism to allow transfer of funds from one fund to another to avoid that negative cash position.
Thank you.
Follow-up question to that?
Yeah.
Where do you go?
Can I ask? That's fine, and I'm comfortable with that. So is there any reason, therefore, why this issue can't be addressed as and when it arrives? Is there any practical implication to that? Bring it forward at a later date where perhaps there could be a more fulsome explanation as to what the actual need is at the time.
we need to make application to the Office of Local Government in advance of doing that. We can't just dip into the water and sewer fund because we think it's a great idea at the time. We need their approval to do so. So there is a mechanism where we might have to make a formal application. They will grant us approval or deny it, depending on their position. If they grant approval, then we have the ability to draw down in the water and sewer fund.
Thank you.
Any other speakers?
I have real difficulty with this. It is a loan, may well be internal, but we're still going to be paying interest on it. I just wonder whether there shouldn't be some sort of sunset on this. It's basically a cash flow issue, as I understand it. At some point in June, July, August, the other government levels of government will pay us money and we won't need this. Can we turn it off? Or is this tap open until 2027?
Yeah, through again, Mr. Mayor, once the Office of Local Government has given their approval, we can draw down, pay back as we see fit, as you pointed out. In terms of the loan, we pay an interest rate back to the water and sewer fund. So the quicker we pay those funds back to water and sewer, the less interest is paid. So there's no intent to draw down and keep these funds for longer than needed.
Just one other thing, sorry. The quantum, 3 million plus 3 million, can we do it with 2 plus 2? Can we do it with another number?
Mr. Mayor, as pointed out in the Manager Finance report, if the stars all align, there could be potential $5 million shortfall in cash because we're not sure of the payments for predominantly major grants and in particular federal assistance grant. Federal assistance grant gets paid each year, sometimes in advance to the 30th of June. If that comes through, certainly won't need the full $5 million, but at this stage, I guess I'm taking a precautionary approach to ensure that we've got enough funds and I don't need to come back to you or the Office of Local Government. Thank you. Okay, no further. Councillor McPhee.
Just for some clarity in the chamber, most of our funding comes from the federal and state government, so we get promised this money. But it's like when you go around and you borrow money from someone and keep hiding from them because you don't want to pay it back. So what happens is that we have to start our projects because otherwise they cost more money or we don't get projects happening. So what happens is the government, federal government, the state government promised us grant money, and that means we can start projects. So we start the projects, but then they say, well, we'll give you the money, but we'll give it to you next week. And in order for us to be able to continue those projects, those roads that we build, all those things, what we do is we take from a fund that we already have, which is internal, so we can pay for that and continue with the projects while we're waiting for the state and federal governments to pay us the cash that they've actually promised us. So we're not overextending ourselves. We're just making sure that we've got some mechanism in place for the shortfall between the promise of the grant money that we have, the project that begins, and when the federal or the state government actually decides to give us that money. Is that a fair? Do it make sense anything out? So it's not like we're borrowing money for anything. It's money that we've been promised, but that hasn't actually made our bank accounts yet.
That's right.
Thank you, Councillor McPhee. No more questions. Put the motion, three parts of the recommendation. All in favour? Is Collison, Williamson, Shields, Ryan, McPhee, Fraser and McLeod. Against is McGill and Councillor Stotts. Carried. Go to page 144 is the Community Strategic Plan 2035. Move Councillor Williamson. Seconder.
Can I move that? Can I move that, please, with the changes suggested by submission 1 to CSP in the notes there, and Mr. Howard spoke to it earlier on.
That'll be nearly a foreshadowed if this motion doesn't get up.
What particular is
This is more or less the motion. The council adopted up under the 20 community strategic plan. So you're happy with that?
No, that was going to be that.
I'm moving additional the changed wordings from submission 1 on a connected community.
Right. And I have a seconder. Councillor Clout. Any questions, comment? Councillor McGill, you got that?
I don't know what it means. Can we get some words? Because if you're talking, sorry, if you're talking about the alternative wording.
Yep. Yeah, if you go down to your submission at the end there, it'll give you
147
on 147. Thank
Yep.
you.
The 1.2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 dot points.
Yep. So deliver, improve, provide.
Okay, well, I've got a mover and I had a seconder, Councillor Clout. Any more questions, comment? Councillor McPhee?
Did Councillor Williamson want to speak to it first?
Sure. I think words are important, and I think it's commendable that Gerald has Gerard has come to us today to speak to this. He has put the effort in to offer a submission, and I think it's a worthwhile submission. He makes a really good point. It offers continuity. This is a very important document. It is often overseen, but it sets the trend for 10 years of community consultation and council operation. And I think that the space of a connected community does require the same respect that all of the other areas do. I think the wording is super important here.
Okay, Councillor McPhee?
I agree with Councillor Williamson that words are important, and that's why I would actually be more comfortable if this was deferred so we could sit down and discuss it more in detail, because when we're saying we're going to promise to deliver something as opposed to advocate for something, I think it makes a very big difference in what we stand for. And I believe that this is probably something that we need to do more in a workshop environment before we start changing the wording on this.
Any other speakers? Councillor McGill?
Yeah, but I just rise to support what Councillor McPhee's just said. I have real problems with 1.2, deliver aged care and disability services. As a council, that's not happening. We don't do it well, and we really deliver is the word. We certainly advocate, we certainly support it for other people to do it, but it's not really our core business. And if we keep going this way, we'll end up with more situations where we can't deliver aged care, but we promise beyond our actual ability to deliver it.
Okay, any other speakers? Councillor Fraser?
Yes, I support the comments from Councillor Councillor McGill in their entirety. I think that's exactly correct. In my view, the community strategic plan should be passed as is. I'm not in favour of reviewing the wording as suggested.
Okay, councillors, I've got the mover and a seconder for the recommendations as is in front of me. So I'm going, Councillor Williamson. You wish to?
Yep, I'll close up if nobody else
Yep.
wishes to speak. I think that's really important, Councillor McGill, what you just said there. What you said was that it's not overly important to deliver aged care for us as a Parnassusborough Council to deliver aged care, disability services and youth engagement facilities. It's just a notion. I don't know if anybody in the crowd here thinks that's a notion, but I think it's really important that we focus on delivering those things that we say we do. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll let councillors make it.
Okay, councillors, so that's the end of the debate on that. Just remember, councillors, if this motion is lost when I put it, we're not speaking any more to it, we will have no motion in front of us.
Sorry, can I just clarify, are we voting on the recommendation, or voting on the original? Are we voting on Councillor Williams and the new?
Yes. That's correct.
amended.
Yeah, so I amended and I've got a seconder, so no more debate on that because that's closed.
Can we have a foreshadow?
You can have a foreshadow.
So I'd like to foreshadow that we go back to the original.
Right, that's the only way to do it, so I've got a foreshadow and it's very simple, that if this is lost, we go back to the original staff recommendation, okay? Okay, council, we're going to put Councillor Williamson's motion up now. Those in favour? Colson, Williamson, Stoltz and Clout. Against is Shields, Ryan, McPhee, McGill and Fraser. So councillor Williamson, your motion is lost. We now go to the foreshadowed.
Second.
And seconded by councillor McGill. Councillor McPhee, do you wish to speak?
I would like to review this, and more than just in a 5-minute conversation here. I think it's really important that we get it right. I think Councillor Williamson has maybe twisted the words here of Councillor McGill, because I don't think that's what he meant. I think it's more that the word puts a lot of weight on us to deliver things that we may not be in a position to do so, and I think it needs to be done with a little bit more considered consult before we change wording.
So councillor McPhee, you're going back to the staff recommendation. There won't be any workshops. You're going back as is the recommendation.
Just a point of order, Mr. Mayor, the word with can be removed.
We can review it any time. Just to clarify, through you, Mr. Mayor, we can actually workshop this any time, so we can re-adopt this as we wish, correct?
Mr. Mayor, the CSP is on a public exhibition and it's been put before council now for adoption. It is adopted once in a council term.
Okay, so we're moving the recommendation as is. I'm going to move it in a seconder.
You got the second, Rob?
Second to councillor McGill.
Thank you.
Okay, putting the motion, all in favour? Colson, Shields, Ryan, McPhee, McGill, Fraser. 4 against is councillor Clout, councillor Stoltz and councillor Williamson. The original recommendation is passed. Okay, we'll move over to 148, or I think we should defer it a bit longer. Okay. G05.2 is Gummun Place update. Councillor McGill, Councillor Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move the following motion to council. That council commence the transition of the provision of aged care services currently delivered by the Upper Hunter Shire Council to operate Gummun Place Hostel to another operator in consultation with the Department of Aged Care and other potential stakeholders.
Have I got a seconder? Councillor Stoltz. You wish to speak any further, Councillor Ryan?
I will. I'll probably say more to close out, but just on introducing this, what I would like to say is that this proposition was formulated largely through the work and contribution of our Merriwar Community Advisory Committee, which I've been very fortunate to be part of over the last several months, and was very pleased that council was able to adopt and reinstate this committee for this term of council for the purpose of exploring the expression of interest, and also to ensure that aged care services are delivered in our community. So what I would say is that the issue here for mine is fundamentally centred around one principle, and that is the need for aged care services to be delivered in our community. Very specifically, haven't been prescriptive in how that's achieved. But what it does speak to is a number of things. And one is the recommendation that was made to the community when we had our presentation last couple of weeks ago by our consultant. And the conclusion for that was that really the solution rests within the hands of the community. This has to be a community-driven project. And they talked about a 3-tier model. For mine, that really relates to all 3 tiers of government looking to identify and provide a solution to our community. I agree with the speakers earlier that talk about how this current system is broken, and our expression of interest process clearly identified that there is no solution in that model. What we're asking here is that council support investigation of a community-driven model through engaging with those other parties. And I think that was pretty clear in the presentation that was made by the speakers this evening. So they're my commencing remarks, and I'll obviously reserve my right to close at the end of this debate.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other speakers? Councillor McGill.
Yeah, look, I like to support this motion. One thing I'll pick up on that last word, stakeholders. That's a lot of people. That's the community of Merriwa. It's the New South Wales Department of Health, who we don't appear to have touched their shoulders yet. It's Meriton down the road at Denman. There are other people we can talk to. Maybe there is a solution out there. At this stage, closure is not an option until we've explored every option. And there are still, I believe, some options that can be explored. As long as we're not wedded to those bricks that are called Gummun Place, where primary concern is those 16 residents and their families and the support network, and ensuring that the support network stays around those people. Whether they
Any other speakers? Councillor Stoltz.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I want to echo the comments from councillors McGill and Ryan. We a bit premature of council recommending that we close Gummun down at this point in time. The committee's not long been reinstated. There's been some great contribution and progression from the committee with some potential strategies. We need more time. We'll need to work through where we need to get the money to keep Gummun afloat, while we need more time to make, to cement some of these strategies and stakeholders. And, not only have we got a large presence here tonight, the rest of the community have had an online petition which currently is sitting at 8,394 signatures. So I think there's elements of the rest of the country with us. We need to, as Rob Smith said, stand shoulder to shoulder with the community until we get some sort of transition plan in place.
Thank you.
Nobody wants to close down an old age facility. The problem is it's just so expensive and it's costing so much money, and we're always trying to find a sustainable solution, which has been out of our grasp. I've been really heartened tonight because I've heard that the Merriwa community are going to band together and they're going to be part of the solution. I'm heartened by Stephen Gallen stating that he would like to be part of the solution and part of spearheading the community, whatever that may look like to be, the community consultation committee that runs the vet facility eventually. That would be very heartening, because I believe the Merriwa community know exactly what's right for their people. But the council alone can't do this. We cannot get support from the federal or the state governments. So if the Merriwa community are going to be part of that, that's really heartening. But I just think that we need also maybe a timeline on this, so that we have the opportunity to explore options, but we also know that there is going to be a timeline where we have to then make the next decision.
Thank you, Councillor McPhee. Councillor Shields, do you wish to speak for or against, or comment?
I just want to echo some of the comments that have been made, and I'll make this point. Every council meeting we start with a prayer, and in that prayer the word compassion comes up. I went out to the Merriwa meeting on the 7th of May, and the one thing that I came away with is the need to be compassionate. The measure of any society is how well you look after those in your society that are vulnerable. Now, I'm terribly conflicted over Gummun Place, because I can see that council does not have the financial capability to keep this thing going indefinitely. I want to agree with what Councillor McPhee just says, and that is that we need to put into place a very firm timeline. And can I say to the community of Merriwa who've come here this evening, and good on you. What you guys need to do is double down on this now and start forming some form of trust, committee, incorporated body, and start working very, very hard towards a solution that reflects the compassion that we need to have in our community. Because if we just say that we're going to close this thing because of its cost, effectively what we're doing is we're aligning the lives of not only the current residents, but those in Merriwa who might one day want to be part of aged care. We're saying you are nothing but a figure in a ledger. And I think that is detrimental. However, I don't think, and I need to say this as forcefully as I can, I don't think the Merriwa community has the luxury of walking away from this tonight and saying, well, we don't have to do much. Because it's going to be up to that community to work out a way, and there are models out there. Merton Court's been mentioned, there's been other models in other towns. There are probably ways this can work, but it has to happen, and it has to happen with a set timeline, because the funds just will not go on forever. And of course, the other problem we have is we've got to rattle the bars of government cages above us and really get them to understand how critical this situation is. Thank you very much.
I'll just make one comment. I think it's important we put a time frame. If we're going to go and visit politicians, we need to tell them that this is getting serious and they can't just linger on for 12 months or so. But that's up to the mover, whether we wish to add a time frame.
No, I was proposed a time.
Through Mr. Chair, could I propose 12 months? Through Mr. Chair, 12 months to come up with a plan, to come up with a strategy, to come up with some kind of policy or some kind of framework.
Okay, so what will happen now? That's been put to the mover. It's up to them whether they wish to add that, or we look for shadow council if this motion's lost.
Yeah, I want the motion to stand as it is, and I will explain why I close. But I'd like to know what the foreshadowed is if I do that, if I may.
Councillor McPhee.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would say it is the same as what has been proposed. However, with a timeline of I would imagine a strategy that is a workable strategy moving forward.
That's 12 months from today.
Correct.
We could nearly put that in as an amendment, Mr. GM, or the shadow won't hurt.
If it was considered as an amendment, you have to consider an amendment. Well, this remove it, won't accept it. Unless you want to debate the amendment.
Okay, so the mover won't accept the 12 months. So you have to call an amendment, Councillor McPhee, which we'll deal with first. Okay? And I've got a seconder. So you want to make it clear again, you're just going 12 months.
Through you, Mr. Chair, so it's the same amendment, it's the same motion that Councillor Ryan has proposed, however with a timeline of 12 months.
Yep. So that's an amendment. If I've got a second, Councillor Fraser, you get your light on, but I'm not sure whether. Earl, you're going to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay. So I'm going to put the amendment, and if it's lost, we come back to Councillor Ryan's, Mr. GM.
So I don't get to speak against it.
You can speak against the amendment. Yep.
Okay, thank you. I said at the outcome that I've a couple of very clear objectives here. The first objective is to identify, to be able to provide aged care services within the community. Very carefully identified that we're talking about a transition. I haven't been prescriptive in any way about how this is formed, although what I will say is that the advisory committee and the community do have an idea about how this may come about. I was very careful to not be prescriptive in any way. So I use the word stakeholders. I may have meant the state government and working with some of the assets that they provide. And I think people have talked previously about that. So we do have some facilities in Marriwa at the moment that do provide aged care facilities. That is not Gummun Place. But I don't want to be prescriptive at all, because I think we need to go and speak to them. I also feel that the underlying thing here is that Upper Hunter Shire Council should not be operating the facility. And I think that our speaker spoke to that this evening as well, right? So I believe that we'll identify relatively quickly whether or not we do have support that will be required from the federal and state government. I expect it'll be within the 12-month period, but I really don't feel that we should be prescriptive in that regard. And I think that subject to the outcome of those investigations that are made, we can subsequently make a judgment about that within the foreseeable future. So that's the base from which I say it. I would like it to be as it is. Yeah, I probably can't add much more at this point.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan.
Yeah, I rise to oppose the amendment. It doesn't make sense. The resolution is that council commence. So how does a timeline to commence 12 months? No, it doesn't make sense. It's unnecessary. At this stage, council commences, and I'm pretty sure the GM and the directors will report back to us at every meeting between now and then, and there'll be opportunity for us to gauge the progress. But the 12 months doesn't fit with that resolution. It needs to be rewritten if you're going to include any notion of a timeline.
Councillor Fraser.
My concern is that it means the transition to the provision of aged care services. Look, it's a situation that this Gummun Place is either going to survive or not survive. And at the moment, if it remains in its current situation, then quite frankly, the odds are stacked against it. Financially, it's a shot dark. It's beyond help, really, in my view. And you can complain all you like, but the evidence is against you on that. So the issue of commence the transition gives me some concern, because what does it mean? I mean, at the end of the day, if we want to access the assistance of the Department of Aged Care and the programs they offer, we have to make a decision about what we're going to do. Does commencing the transition, I mean, I don't see what it entails. Is it going through an EOI process again? Is it opening it up to expressions of interest from the community about how they would like to run it, whether they can run it, whether they have the ability to form the committee or to have the wherewithal to do it, or to provide finances to do it? Does it also include an approach to aged care indicating that there is likely to be a necessity for them to be involved in this process? This is my concern. I don't know what is actually meant by the transition of provision of aged care services. I accept that there is a strong community feeling that Gummun Place must remain open. I accept that. I fully accept what Councillor Shearer said about compassionate society, and the need for that as well. However, there is a reality. The reality is that Gummun Place cannot continue to go on the way it's going on. I don't say that just on the financial point of view, but there are other management issues that are concerning. There are other things happening in the jargon. And in my view, it's not something that's likely to resolve by simply changing the management or changing the ownership or the operator of this facility. I think we need to be a little bit more direct about the direction, a little bit more firm about the direction that we intend to take in relation to Gummun Place. I don't know whether whether there is any wording that will achieve that, unless Councillor Ryan wishes to, I don't know, clarify what he means or what he proposes the end result of this transition and provision of aged care would look like. I don't know that putting a 12-month period on it assists either, because that might just mean that people in Marywall can put their thumbs for 11.5 months. It's entirely possible.
Oh, yeah.
I'm heartened by the fact that a small portion of the Muriel's population is saying that's not going to be the case, but it is a real concern for the timeline. Right? Does that mean that it gives 12 months or 11.5 months for nothing to happen? It's a very real concern. Something does need to be done, in my view. There needs to be some leadership. There needs to be some appropriate process put in place for there to be some certainty about how this is going to unfold and what the end result is going to be. On that basis, I'm finding it difficult to support this particular motion. I'm not particularly in favour of the council recommendation either, but I'm not particularly in favour of this.
Councillor Ryan, you can answer Councillor Fraser's question.
I will desperately try and confine my comments to directly answer the question if I can. And the question is, how will this work? And I think the best answer for that is, again, the advice that we got from the consultant was that this needs to be a community-led initiative. That's what I'm proposing. That's what this proposes. That will be led by the Community Advisory Committee. And obviously they already do represent the community in that regard. So that's the first part of that, and it will enable a bespoke solution. I'm acutely aware of what happened in Coolah, council-owned facility, into the MPS. I'm acutely aware of what happened in Walker, which was a church-owned facility, now run by council. The circumstances of both of those, and indeed Merton Court, are all fundamentally different in their own way to Gummun Place. So that's what we're looking to explore. What is the model? What is the innovative solution as put by Mr. Galland? That's what we're trying to identify here, the responsibility for which will lay with the community and the advisory committee. And they will explore that through engagement with the other two tiers. What we're looking for from council is their support. We're not asking, in this context, council to drive this process. That's not the intention. So with regard to therefore the timeline, you know, it is not prescriptive, and I think within a reasonable time we will know whether or not this actually has legs or it doesn't. And that's what we're seeking, to give the community the opportunity to explore that. As I said, I think it'll happen well within 12 months. I just don't think that fits with the idea of what we're trying to achieve here. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Okay, the foreshadow, we decided it's not a foreshadow, it's an amendment.
I get to finish up.
So have you got a second there? And Councillor Shields, you agree, but did you move the amendment?
Yes.
For the 12 months?
I seconded
it?
I seconded.
You're supposed to, but don't, you're actually second.
That's it,
So, you will second, right? So you can close the debate before I put that amended motion.
Now, this was obviously a very emotional notice for emotion for a lot of people. Now, when we read the recommendation, this has not been done lightly. The current staff here have tried absolutely everything in their power to keep this afloat. They've done everything in their power, excuse me. We've done everything in our power to see what options we had. And the issue we have is that this is costing us about $800,000 a year. And I know that there were several things written, spoken about what costs are for our council, but we are in a position where we have to do something about this. We've approached federal, state governments. We have done everything in our power to try and come up with a solution. Now, this could have been through today. We could have gone through, we could have just recommended this, and we could have passed this. We've listened. We've been told that the community wants this to happen and they're actively engaging in that solution. However, in order to make sure that we have some kind of reassurance, the 12-month timeline is there So we can also go to the federal government and the state government and say, we have a 12-month deadline, which gives it a matter of urgency. If we go to the government and say, oh, well, we've got this facility and we've got these people who would like to run it, but so this gives it the urgency it needs for our lobbying, our advocacy. It also gives us some clarity about how the process will run. This is why I put the amendment there. And I believe that this would actually give us more of an intentional timeline in the process of going forward.
Councillor, you got a question? Just a direct question to Councillor McPhee.
No, very direct question to you, Mr. Mayor, or the General Manager. And that is just a matter of procedure. So we will put the original motion first, and if so we'll put the amendment.
So the amendment must be placed before the original motion. If the amendments are lost, we will go to the motion. But if it's won, we won't go further.
But if the amendments won, it becomes the original motion. That's right.
It does, yeah. So it would be nice if I had the opportunity to vote for the original motion, because if it did lose, I'm just making the point that I would vote for the amendment. It isn't entirely what I want, but it is anyway.
Unfortunately, the amendment is
asked and answered. Thank you.
So if the amendment is lost, Councillor Ryan, coming back to your motion, okay? Councillors, the amended motion by Councillor McPhee. Those in favour? Collison, Williamson, Shields and McPhee. And against is Clout, Fraser, McGill, Ryan and Stoltz. So that is back now. That amendment is lost. We go back to the original motion. Now, Councillor Ryan and Stoltz have all spoken on it. So do you wish to finish the debate?
Put the motion.
Put the motion. Okay, I'm putting the motion as is on the board. Those in favour? Collison, Williamson, Stoltz, Shields, Ryan, McPhee, McGill, Fraser and Clout. That motion is carried.
Thank you.
Okay, councillors.
We've got more to do.
We've got more to do, and we have our residents are all stopping, so we're right. Okay, over to page 163, the council expenses and facilities policy public, to put on public exhibition. Move Councillor McGill, second Councillor Williamson. Any questions, comment?
Councillor Williamson, you had issues last time, but they've been resolved.
All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 183, the joint water treatment plant between Upper Shire Council and Muswellbrook update. Just 3 points of recommendation, long way from it happening, but going to move up. Move Councillor Ryan, second Councillor McGill. Any questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 187 is the proposed staff structure. Got a mover. Move Councillor Clout, second Councillor McGill. Any questions, comment, discussion? Councillor.
Yeah, just note that this model is a 2-director and GM model, which we've been pursuing for the last 3 or 4 years, and at this stage we'll be continuing forward with it.
Thank you. Question, Councillor Williamson.
I'd like to propose a foreshadow that the post staff structure included a director of corporate service and community services.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that would be a budgetary alteration, so you have to come up with it.
There's a funding model there, Councillor Williamson. Okay, we've got we've got the recommendation in front of us, so we'll shadow, you'll have to find the funding.
Yeah. On the spot, I'll have to pass at that. But I will make a motion, and I might as well just vote against, I'll most speak against this. I think it's really problematic that we've discussed finances and business services continually without a business and finance director. And I'm not the only one. Members of the Labor Party, members of the Liberal Party, members of the National Party have spoken, that I've spoken to, also slightly unimpressed that we are running an organisation that has financial difficulties, but does not have a director of financial corporate services. It's a perception issue. I can see the upsides, I can see the downsides, and I do respect the general manager's capacity to run this organisation as he has, and I respect the extra workload that the two directors have taken on and all of the other staff. But I do believe it needs flagging that this is not sustainable. It's not sustainable for the staff of the organisation, and I don't believe it's a healthy culture. They're my thoughts, but I'll leave that to everybody else.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Any other speakers? Councillor McGill.
Just as a second, I completely agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. But now is not the time. We said this in the GM's review. There was a view of that committee that a 3-director structure was the preferred structure. But we all also acknowledge that at this stage it's not affordable. At some point in the future, it has to be affordable. I agree with you. It has to be affordable. But just right now, let's go with the model that's being proposed.
Thank you. Councillor Williamson, it doesn't stop you, and this is going to be moved, come back to council at any time if you can come up with the fee. Okay, we've got a mover, Councillor Clout, second by Councillor McGill. Any other speakers? I put the motion in favour. Collison, Clout, McGill, McPhee, Ryan, Shields and Stoltz. Against, Councillor Williamson and Councillor Fraser. Motion is carried. Over to page 194 is the notice of motion 05.1. The notice of motion proposed development application DA 168/2023, an application for tourist and business accommodation unit at 108 Reading Street, Marywall. You've got a motion, councillor, put up by Councillor Stoltz. I've got a mover. Councillor Stoltz, a second, Councillor Fraser. Councillor Stoltz, you wish to speak to the motion?
Well, I think it's self-explanatory. There's been a lot of talk tonight, so I'm not going to add anything further. I think everything's on the record as needs to be.
Thank you, Councillor Fraser. There's a seconder. No. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Ryan.
For please, but I just want to add a note of caution and just point out that this motion actually says that urgently undertakes the process to gazette a legally registered laneway. And I made the point earlier, just a word of caution, that that process can be done, and that process, and I believe it should be undertaken, but it will, to some extent, how that actually takes place on the outcome of the DA. So I'm just making that point. This doesn't preempt the DA in any way, shape or form. It absolutely has to be done, but to be legally registered, the outcome of the DA will determine that.
Let's just put that down as a comment.
A comment, thank you.
Comment. Okay.
I would like to be heard on that. Sorry, as a second, I'll take my privilege.
Is it good?
Again, legally registered. I think the wording's probably a bit implicit, but at the end of the day, I accept what Councillor Ryan said, but I think part of the process is probably most likely going to be either a compulsory acquisition or an agreed purchase of that particular part of the lot, and probably the preparation of the deposited plan goes for the new lot. But I also will say that we ought to also be cleaning that laneway through the front of these other businesses to take advantage of that particular access and egress, As I say, everyone's going to share a little bit of pain on this one. We're going to do it. And if there's going to be a laneway, it'll be a laneway, there's a functional laneway or a functional roadway that goes through the existing laneway around the back and then out, I presume, out on the Virgin Street. It will, as I say, I think we need to go a little bit further and reach the laneway, but again, the process, quite right about the process, the DA process is going to go through whatever it's going to go through. But I think council is in a position where it's going to have a few steps taken to acquire that script plan to achieve the actual roadway.
So, councillor Stoltz, would you allow that to be added to your recommendation?
Look, I'm happy if that's added. I mean, there's some significant legal issues around that, but as long as we get the same outcome.
So
Can I speak now? I've been waiting my turn. Can someone just run us through the actual, how this is going to happen? Because I think I'm just a bit confused as to what the process is. Do we have to wait until the other DA has been processed? Also, can we just gazette land, or do we have to actually request purchase? How actually do we legally do this?
Will be
It can't be a condition of the DA that has to run as a separate practice, or the DA will run its course. Given that if this is resolved tonight, the process will be that our engineering staff will, or planning staff may make some approaches to the various property owners. It appears now that may be more than one property owner, maybe a number of property owners. There are two ways, and you've experienced this already, councillors, with the compulsory acquisition process at Merriwar for the sewer pipeline easement. We will approach the property owners. If there is an agreement reached, we will just simply go through a process which is agreed to by both parties. If no agreement can be reached, we can enact the process of compulsory acquisition. In order to do that, we need to get the governor's approval. So there's a few extra steps to do that. It would be hoped that we can reach some sort of agreement with the property owners, but if not, we'll have to take a second course of action.
So just for clarity, so say if the proponent then takes us to court and appeals the decision tonight, there will be nothing that we can do until that happens. Is that the case as well?
The two could possibly run in parallel legally, but we may choose to wait till we know the outcome of one before commencing the second.
Well, the word he urgently undertakes, I'm just wondering if we can actually urgently do that, because there seems to be a lot of moving parts, that was all.
I'm not aware of the legal process that will stop one from happening while the other is also going.
Okay, so councillor Fraser, you're happy with councillor Stoltz prepared to put that
amendment
into his original motion?
We all understanding what some of us are saying.
So the amendment is that it'll go
Beyond just that
the
one.
proposed lot, and actually the laneway will end at the Elders Gate.
And according to Councillor Fraser's description, will also go down what is now currently the IGA car park all the way to the Main Street.
And the impact of that will be that we'll get a new valuation for set block just got smaller.
It will have an impact on their property owners, yes.
Do we not need to have a budgetary, don't we need to have some kind of budget?
Councillors, there will be a process where this will be reported back to council before committee. At that stage, council will be given the financial implications. I can't tell you what the financial implications are at this stage. There's the acquisition cost itself, plus the legal costs.
Perhaps the wording could be different. I know I speak out of turn now, but perhaps it would be different. The motion that council commences or council investigates the process of gazetting or obtaining.
Then you want to report back.
And then report back the process.
Much better.
And costings.
And costings.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, to pick procedural motion, it's almost 8 o'clock, we need to either close the meeting at 8 or resolve to extend, not suggestion resolve, extend.
Move extension.
Move extension by councillor Gill, second by councillor Fraser, all in favour? Against, carried, extended. Okay, councillor Gill, are you happy to put those other words, there's a few more words there now, councillor Stoltz?
Yeah. In terms of extending the roadway up to Elders Gateway, will that affect the car parking at that IGA?
The way I understand it, it will be extended down to IGA, not just to Elders.
Yes, the car parking allows legitimate car parking.
Councillor Fraser is there, extends through the property that is the subject of the DA into the IGA's car park and then all the way down to Mont Street. So it's it will be an L-shaped parcel lane. Or the alternative, I guess, is that you just continue the laneway in its current direction straight down until it reaches the property boundary. That's the alternative. But it's not what we proposed.
Okay, we're getting a little bit out of hand here.
I can make a quick comment, if it helps.
Comment.
And that is that my understanding is that this would need to come back to council for ratification, whatever which way. So we don't have to resolve it right now. The motion will still work either way, because it'll be subject to a recommendation.
You'd have to add that in.
The wording there is we undertake investigation, I understand. So
Yeah, a report will come back. We can either accept or decline the report, whatever that is. Good.
Okay, we're all happy with that? Yep. Okay, all in favour? Against, carried. Now, council, we move over to page 197. And before we speak, it's a notice of motion of Gummun Place Hostel, Merriwar. Following motion is received from councillor Troy Stoltz. The future-proof Gummun Place Hostel, Merriwar. Council look at securing an adjoining property to offer scope for further expansion of Gummun Place Hostel in the future, utilising the Merriwar funds. Council purchased 1012 Marquette Street, Merriwar, adjoining property to Gummun Place. Council purchased 17 Blacksland Street, Merriwar, rear adjoining property to Gummun Place. Can I just add? A motion requires the expenditure of funds. 10.9. A motion or amendment to a motion which is passed would require the expenditure of funds on works and or services other than those already provided in the council's current adopted operational plan. Must identify the source of funding for the expenditure that this is subject of a motion. If the motion does not identify a funding source, the council must defer consideration of the matter, depending on a report from the general manager on the availability of funds for implementing the motion if adopted. So unfortunately, the general manager's comment was a while back. Presently, there would not be sufficient funds in council Merriwar Reserve to buy both sites. No analysis has been undertaken in regards to the valuations of the two parcels of land or the longer term benefits. So I'm moving that this gets deferred.
Second.
Second, councillor Clout.
Can I speak to this?
Yeah, I've said enough, so if you wish to speak.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that after Deidre told us that the land is quite a big lot, and there's obviously a huge there if somebody wishes to expand, I really don't understand how we can attempt to pay nearly, was it 800,000 between two of them to buy more land. I don't think space is the issue with Gummun Place, so I think this is definitely not a good idea.
Councillor McPhee.
I think also considering there will be some investigations by the community, I think we need to defer so that they've got a strategy in place, because if we purchase this, and it may not turn out to be what's needed, I think it would be a waste of funds. I think we need to defer, see what the community comes back, how they want to run this, the facility, and then that would be the right time to decide whether we purchase or
or not. We've got no option, it doesn't meet. So, councillor Stoltz, you wish to speak?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that might have been a bit of oversight on my behalf. Both those properties were and are available. Only one would be sufficient. for a further expansion. No need for the two, but there's two options of the one property. I'm aware that the Merriwall Reserve Fund is a little bit light on, Mr Mayor, and probably would only have enough for one of those properties.
Okay, so I'm going to defer.
Before you do, can I suggest that the original motion, if it had the word between item 1 and item 2, or that would then suffice, we would then meet the requirements of the funding under the Merriwall account. We buy one property, not two properties, but either or.
Yeah. I'm moving and I've got a second to defer, so. Yeah, yeah.
Might change the words of the further motion for the council to start to report.
Yeah, so defer the motion. And council to report back on funding. Because it's not my rule, it's in the code of meeting practice. Okay,
It's not very.
no other speakers,
You didn't identify funding sources.
put the motion.
Yeah.
Stolson, Williamson, Shields, Ryan, McPhee, McGill and Clout. Against is Fraser and Stultz. The motion is carried. Over to page 200 is questions with notice. Just for noting. Stultz. Happy with your responses without debating.
Mr Mayor, it's been followed up in the Merriwall CAC. So at this point, those issues are on foot, including some approaches to transport for New South Wales. So I guess the motion's redundant in tonight's aspect as the Merriwall CAC has put a similar position up, and that's moving forward.
Okay, we move down to.
Need to move.
Note the questions received and move for that. Yeah, better get a mover. Move Councillor Stoltz, second Councillor McGill, all in favour. Against, carried. Over to page 202 is correspondence received for information. Recommendation. Note the correspondence received from ARTC in relation to weed growth in the Great Northern Railway and New England Highway corridors. Noting the mover, Councillor McGill, second Councillor Fraser.
Just in, if I may, this letter spins faster than any aeroplane I've ever seen. It's unbelievable. We took this letter down to the recent Upper Hutt County Council last meeting down there. They were impressed. We've got to a point where we've asked Musselburgh and Singleton to do similar letters. They've taken it on board, and also that the Weed Authority will do a similar letter. So we're just going to keep the pressure up. Unfortunately, we haven't yet heard back from Transport for New South Wales in respect of the highway. So they may need to be given another letter. But at least we're starting to get some movement here where we're actually drawing an issue to their attention, and hopefully at one point someone will wake up to themselves and start to deal with the weeds on their property that are liable to affect the rest of the community.
Thank you, Councillor McGill. No other questions, comment? All in favour? Against, motion is carried. Over to page 204 is appreciation messages, quarterly report. Not very often we get them, but we've got them. So move up. Move Councillor Shields, second. Councillor McPhee. Any questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against, carried. Someone like to move into confidential? Move Councillor McPhee, second Councillor McGill. All in favour? Against, carried. Thank you all for Merriwall. Safe journey home. Thank you.